across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good evening. It is 2 minutes past 7 and it's Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Peter Cardwell for one night only. And oh boy, have we got a show for you this evening. Breaking tonight, the Ginger Growler steps up her campaign to replace Sir Keir Starmer. But as she slams at strict immigration rules as un-British, will Angela Rayner open the floodgates to mass immigration if she becomes Prime Minister? Crazy thoughts, I know, but would Prime Minister Angela Rayner be worse than Keir Starmer? Is that a case of be careful what you wish for? Now, Kemi Badenoch faces pressure to sack her justice spokesman, Nick Timothy, for a very controversial and much debated post on X. But does he have a point? Is public Muslim prayer an assault on British identity and culture? Is it acceptable at Trafalgar Square? Let me know your thoughts. My priority for the next 3 hours is to get your opinions on the radio and on the telly. My phone number is 03444991000. Young Matthew is taking your calls, so book your place on the show. Normally on Talk Breakfast, we are packed to the rafters with guests. And of course, we've got great guests tonight, but there's lots more time for your views. So let's have the voice notes, let's have the calls, and let's have the texts as well. Just text the word talk in your message to 87222. And as the saying goes, let's talk. We're going to get to Harry and Meghan later as well, as Netflix finally wash their hands of the couple. Could they run out of money? Do the Sussexes face bankruptcy? We'll be hearing from a top royal expert on that. So much to get through. But what about this growing Labour civil war? It's quite clear that Big Ange, the Ginger Growler herself, Angela Rayner, is on manoeuvres to replace Sir Keir Starmer. But would she be worse? She's been attacking Shabana Mahmood's changes to the rules around indefinite leave to remain. She's not happy about stricter immigration policies. She says they're un-British. So if she gets in, is it open borders all the way? Who better to ask than Britain's finest political double act, Neil and Christine Hamilton. Good evening, guys.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Wonderful to have you both with us on the show. Have you had your glass of wine yet?
Well, we've been at a rather jolly lunch all day, so yes, we've had, never mind our glass, our bottles. Oh, I can see my cheeks looking a bit red, but never mind.
You're looking
yes,
flushed.
we have, of course we have.
You look flushed. I thought that was Neil. But I've got to say that the show is sponsored by Jacobs Creek and Chardonnay whenever you're on. It's lovely to see you both. Let's talk about Angela Rayner if we can, Christine. Be afraid, be very afraid. She might be our next Prime Minister.
Well, I know. I mean, I can't bear the thought of Starmer staying on for another minute. On the other hand, of the choices available, I honestly feel I'd rather keep Starmer because he's so useless and so patently useless. And the thought of Rayner as Prime Minister is really, frankly, very scary indeed. But what's the choice? I mean, I'd rather have Andy Burnham, actually, than Rayner, but he's out for the count. Starmer made sure of that. But it does look as though it's going to be Rayner. There's a lot of whatever it is, slip between the cup and the lip and all that sort of business. But no, I think Angela Rayner as Prime Minister would be very, very scary indeed.
And yet she calls herself a socialist, Neil Hamilton. It's reported today she's going to make over £100,000 from speaking engagements and a book deal.
Yeah, well, of course, socialists are socialists so long as they don't actually make significant sums of money for themselves. Then they find actually that that they've got some kind of a loophole in their ideological construct, which allows them to slip through it.
They want money. They just don't want us to have any.
Exactly.
I think, do you know, sorry to interrupt, I think she's making this £100,000 from one speaking engagement.
No, I don't think so.
Did I read that wrong?
I mean,
that's your, Christine, that's your rate, not hers.
Oh, that's my rate. Yes, you're right.
She's not Christine Hamilton level. She's not battle axe level.
I mean, what I find so extraordinary is that any businesses thinks it's worthwhile to pay her 25,000 quid to turn up at a conference in order to mouth the drivel that she believes in. And mind you, I thought that about Theresa May as well, who got £100,000 speaking engagement. I can understand people who want to pay £100,000 not to go and listen to something like that. But it does amaze me how people have got money to burn in this way.
Well, of course, our Ange has got problems, hasn't she? She's still got this back tax to pay. Is it 40,000 or something like that?
In that region.
She needs to make money.
Yeah.
It just might be that when she starts to understand the market economy, etc., and capitalism, that it works for her. Maybe, just maybe, she might realise that it actually might be quite good for the rest of the country as well. But I doubt it.
Well, the trouble is, none of them does understand anything about the market economy or the real world. There isn't a single member of the cabinet that has ever been involved in a private sector business, let alone actually run one. So they've no idea how the profit motive works, how the competitive construct of capitalism operates. They've all got policy wonk jobs behind them, or they work for some charity, or they're backroom apparatchiks, or like Angela Rayner, they've been trade union officials. None of them actually has the slightest idea about how to create economic growth. In fact, all their efforts throughout their entire lives has been to develop policies that are designed to frustrate or diminish the potential for growth.
Indeed, and one of the few positives, Neil, from this current administration is the work of the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood with modest but necessary changes to the rules around indefinite leave to remain, with the wait being 10 years now, over 5 years. A modest but welcome improvement, Neil, something that could be reversed by Angela Rayner.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think in a sense, worse is better, because anything which makes it more certain that this ghastly government or its compatriots in the Green Party are not likely to win the next election has got my vote. Given that we're now only just over 3 years away from the next general election, we are in the sort of dying years of this Parliament already. And that restricts what Labour can do to make things even worse than they are. So, I see that, there are bright gleams ahead of us of escape from this nightmare that we've been living in for the last 2 years.
God, I hope you're right.
Unfortunately, Christine, Angela Rayner does have something about her, doesn't she? She's got the X factor. She makes headlines. She's got presence, and probably more so than any of her rivals, given the fact that Andy Burnham still hasn't got into the House of Commons.
Oh, you're absolutely right. No, I mean, there's a lot about Angela Rayner to admire. I mean, I don't agree with her policies, but, as a human being, she's got charisma. She's, to a very large extent, she has got what it takes. It's just her policies that I object
Correct.
to. But,
yeah.
And, I know it's been trotted out 1,000,001 times, and, his father was a toolmaker and all that bollocks. She has come a hell of a long way.
Jacob's Creek. Apologies, everyone.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's the Jacob's Creek.
You don't have to apologise. You're not going to cancel on my watch, Christine.
She's come a hell of a long way from where she started, and you have to hand it to her. She's got guts. She's got chutzpah.
She's got a great backstory as well. Single mother. She has
got a great backstory. Yeah.
I mean, both Burnham and Rayner can make a passable impression of being a human being, unlike the colourless fox who's currently the occupant of number 10.
Neil, do you like the look of Big Angie's backstory?
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to there.
Oh, be careful. You're a lawyer. Tread carefully. Neil, the truth is, I mean, politics is a partly aesthetic business, isn't it? It's about people that have got charisma, if they can make a good speech, if they're good at making headlines, if they've got cut through. Lover or hater, Neil, Angela's got that. You could almost argue she's the Boris figure within the Labour Party.
Yeah, well, I don't regard that as a compliment.
The ginger Boris.
but she's going to be making her pitch to the left.
Did you say she's a pitch? I beg your pardon? Oh, my goodness. I've already lost control. 11 minutes in. Peter
Darling,
Cardwell
is not
going to be happy. Why did you call her a pitch?
No, pitch obviously means something to you that it doesn't mean to us. A pitch is it's obviously
her appeal.
I don't appreciate the unparliamentary language, I've got to say.
It's got another meaning that I'm afraid goes right over our head. I don't know if we have to apologise.
Well,
then
the pitch is back. So Neil, develop your points.
Yeah, well, she's obviously going to be appealing, as indeed would Burnham
She is
if he's
appealing.
in the running, to the left of the Labour Party. And that would mean doubling down on all the most disastrous parts of what the government is currently doing.
Yeah.
And it would divorce them even further from the broad mass of the British people on energy policy, immigration, on crime, you name it. They're actually wedded to policies which are even more catastrophic than the ones we're currently enduring. So that isn't going to be any good for Labour electorally in the years ahead. Of course, they're fighting a battle not with the British elector, but as such, but with the various factions who they've lost to the Green Party or still within the Labour Party, and the far left, or the people who believe in identity politics, uber woke, and particularly on migration, of course, open doors. So none of these things is going to help them to win the next election. So I think we should welcome the chaos which is going to engulf the Labour Party after May, because you can imagine what a civil war is going to do to them. Iran has got nothing on it.
That's a very good point. It's a positive haven of peace compared to the Parliamentary Labour Party. I mean, Neil, I just want to develop this point with you before I come back to Christine on indefinite leave to remain. Shabana Mahmood, who even Trevor Kavanagh has told me on this channel is an impressive politician, has done the right thing. So you have to wait 10 years now for indefinite leave to remain. So the details are as follows. It was the government's 2025 settlement consultation. It says indefinite leave to remain would move to an earned settlement model with tougher conditions around work, national insurance contributions, the ability to speak English, criminal record, and wider contribution to the UK. The biggest change is a move from 5 years as a route to staying in the country to 10 years. If Angela Rayner reverses that, how much of that are we stuck with, Neil? Because I'm just worried it could cost billions.
Well, obviously it could, and we just hope that this government will collapse as soon as possible and a new government will come in and move further in the direction that Shabana Mahmood wants to move in now. At least, she does have an inkling of what needs to be done. It's inadequate. We need a much more radical policy than the one that she's currently espousing.
Well, you'd scrap it altogether, wouldn't you, Neil?
Well, I think what we should, I'm in favour of immigration.
I know I would.
To the extent that we accept people whom we positively want because they fill skills gaps that we can't fill for ourselves within a reasonable time, and for various other reasons, but which are genuine reasons. So many of the people who are in this country are actually not here lawfully at all. They may have entered lawfully with visas, but they're visa overstayers, and not to mention the ones who are pouring in every day on boats and lorries and so on, who have no right to be here at all. And the idea that you could acquire the right to remain simply by passage of time and not being discovered is preposterous. This country is bursting at the seams in large parts of it, and we've increased our population from 50 million to 65 million in a generation. These are not sustainable increases, and at the moment there's no sign of this being abated to any meaningful extent.
Most definitely. Christine, Bill has messaged the show. Is a tax dodger who achieved so much by getting knocked up at 15 really the best that Labour can offer? How would you respond to that?
Well,
well, I think she left school with more children than O levels.
I think she did. Yes, I'm not. Look, I'm conflicted. That's the word about.
She got an F apparently.
Pardon?
She got an F.
She got an F.
F for what?
Quiet. I am conflicted about Angela Rayner because, in a way, you've got to admire somebody who pulls themselves. I mean, look at her. She's whatever she is. Is she deputy? No, she's not deputy.
She was deputy prime minister for a while.
That's but she was. It's pretty amazing. But no, on the other hand, the thought of her anywhere near the levers of power is absolutely horrific. Largely, or a large part, one of the reasons that Neil has mentioned, that none of the Labour government ministers, etc., have any clue how to run anything, to be honest. I mean, they couldn't run a whatnot.
Not even a bath, by the look of some of them.
I know. So I'm horrified at the thought of Angela Rayner being anywhere nearer the levers of power than she is already. So I've forgotten what the question was.
But actually,
I'm conflicted.
Well,
I am conflicted.
I can see you're conflicted. And I feel the same way that you do about this, Christine, because she's got something about her. She's clearly an accomplished person. Her policies would be horrible, as you say. My question to you, Christine, I'm concerned about immigration under Rayner? Because, yes, Neil talks about, you know, the government collapsing next year. Well, we can hope that happens, but turkeys don't vote for Christmas. A likely incoming Prime Minister will cling on for dear life for the remainder of this Parliament. So how irreversible could the changes that Angela Rayner inflicts on the country be? For example, indefinitely to remain. She could give citizenship to millions of people whilst in office, and we'll be stuck with a bill for billions, because these people, OK, they've come for a better life, no problem, we would do the same, but they're going to be a net cost to the taxpayer for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Well, that depends, of course, on what our welfare policy is going to be for the future, by and large. And that's the other thing that none of these contenders for Starmer's chair is interested in reforming at all. Even, you know, there was a massive revolt over the winter fuel payment withdrawal, and so whatever you thought about that, it was at least an attempt to get to grips with a small part of the welfare bill, which is going to otherwise smother us all in debt. And none of that's going to be possible under somebody like Rayner, because she's wholly in thrall to trade unions and to far left ideologues. So I really can't. The markets will take a hand, of course, and the bond markets in particular, and this will substantially limit whatever they want to do. So that will be ultimately our salvation, in my view, economic collapse.
Well, I must say that the photographs you've been flashing up just now of Rayner and what's her name? The Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Rachel Reeves.
Rayner and Reeves.
Rachel from Accounts.
Rachel from Accounts.
No, she's
customer complaints. The sight of those two marching almost hand in hand, I mean, is horrific. But they're short-termism, aren't they? All these people, all they're interested in is trying to hang on to power, which I don't think they will. They might do some cobble together with the Greens and some awful left alliance. But as they stand on their own, Labour haven't got a hope in hell of hanging on to power. So they're just trying to create merry hell and push the government, push the country as far as they can towards the left before their time is up. And what we will need is an incredibly strong new government coming in to reverse it all. And you've just got to take a step. I mean, Margaret Thatcher did it. I know it's fashionable to mention her. Ever since the war, the whole country has just slid slowly further and further towards socialism. And every time Labour get in, they turn the ratchet. Every time the Tories got in, they never did anything to take it back again, until Thatcher came along and she suddenly said, stop the rot. And we will get to the stage very soon when we have to do exactly that. Now, who is going to do the Thatcher role? I don't know. And let's just hope to goodness they get elected.
Ripped to the eyeballs on Oxford Landing and Jacobs Creek. I'm delighted to have the wonderful Christine and Neil Hamilton with me. They're going to stick around over the break, only just to refill their glasses, if nothing else. And next up, is public Muslim prayer an assault on British culture and identity? More to come.
conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk, and I'm delighted to say I'm in for the brilliant Peter Cardwell, Mark Dolan with you until 10 p.m. Then I'm back Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I must tell you a bit of parish news, which is in a Talk exclusive. Tom Bower, the author of a brand new book about Harry and Meghan, live on the show on Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. You won't want to miss it, a Talk breakfast exclusive. But what about this? Sir Keir Starmer has called for a senior Conservative who said Muslims praying in Trafalgar Square was an act of domination to be sacked. The Prime Minister described Nick Timothy's comments as utterly appalling and told Tory leader Kemi Badenoch that she should denounce his words and sack him as Shadow Justice Secretary. With me down the line, Neil and Christine Hamilton, Britain's finest political double act. Christine, your reaction to what the Prime Minister's had to say here?
Well, I think what Nick Timothy said, that he's entitled to say it, and I think it's ridiculous for the Prime Minister to say he must be sacked. It's a view that would be held by a large number of people in the country. He is only voicing the opinion that many people share, and he has every right to say it. So, I mean, I think it's absurd for Starmer. He's just trying to divide people with sectarian politics, that's all.
What do you think about this, Neil? Is public Muslim prayer un-British? Is it an assault on our culture and our identity?
Well, I haven't read Nick Timothy's piece, if it's an article or a speech, I'm afraid, because we've been busy today at a birthday lunch for me and two others. But obviously, I don't think that in itself public religious observance is anti-British, even if you're a Muslim, unless there's some intention behind it in order to affront our cultural values.
Well, let me hold fire, Neil, because let me give you, you're a lawyer, you want to hear the detailed evidence. So let me give you the tweet that he posted, and it reads as follows. Too many people are too polite to say this, but mass ritual prayer in public places is an act of domination. The Adnan, which declares there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger, is, when called in a public place, a declaration of domination. Perform these rituals in mosques if you wish, but they're not welcome in our public places and shared institutions. And given their explicit repudiation of Christianity, they certainly do not belong in our churches and cathedrals. I'm not suggesting everyone at Trafalgar Square last night is an Islamist, but the domination of public places is straight from the Islamist playbook. Trafalgar Square belongs to all of us. It is a national memorial to our independence and our salvation. Last night was not like a televised football match or a St. Patrick's Day celebration. It was an act of domination and therefore division. It shouldn't happen again.
Yeah, I can see what he means, and I think he's absolutely right, because I think what he's referring to happening last night was in itself a political act rather than a religious act. Why were they doing it? It was as part of a demonstration to call attention to some political controversy. And that's, I think, the difference between making some public prayer in a park or whatever as an individual, as opposed to a huge organised rally of this kind. And that I do think is true, because it's the symbolic nature of it and the message it was intended to convey to us. Not that sticking their bottoms in the air is something that Allah wants them to do as part of their prayer ritual, but that's sticking their bottoms in the air to make a political point to us who don't share their religious convictions. And I do believe, therefore, that most people would regard this as a political rather than a religious act.
Well, Christine, I'm watching the footage of it, and I don't like it. I think it's a British country, it's a Christian country, the United Kingdom, and you've got this big demonstration of Muslim prayer in front of Trafalgar Square, in front of the National Gallery. And I'm pretty sure that if we turn a blind eye to this, there'll be more of it to come.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will. And as you say, we are a Christian country. I wonder how many of those people that are on the screen now performing this act have any idea what Trafalgar Square is all about, whether they have any idea what Trafalgar is, whether they have any idea that it's one of the great markings of our shared British culture, and that is what is in danger of being diluted massively quickly. And that's Sadiq Khan, isn't it, in the middle?
Indeed,
Yeah.
it's Sadiq Khan, whipping it all up. And I would say the same for any other religion which is not indigenous to this country, Christine.
Yes, exactly. We are a Christian country. I mean, we're hanging on to it by our fingernails, but we are. That, to me, in the middle of Trafalgar Square. Why do they have to do it in Trafalgar Square? It's blatant provocation. That's what it is. It's deliberately designed to rile people like me, people like you, and people like all the decent, law-abiding majority, I would hope, in this country.
Well, is it there to do more than rile, Neil? Is it there to say, we're here and we're here to stay?
Yes, and not only that, but we're going to take you over. You know, the extent to which the proportion of the UK population are Muslim has zoomed up in a very, very short time indeed. I can remember the time when going on the train from Portsmouth to Waterloo, you went past Woking Mosque, and it was the only mosque in the country when I was a child. Now, of course, we've got 6.5 million or more Muslims. And I'm not saying that all Muslims are by any means un-British or against our national culture. But what we have now is, of course, throughout our great cities in England in particular, is whole areas which, in effect, are now dominated by people who actually look back to the countries and cultures from which they or their ancestors came, rather than look forward to the culture to which they've come, immigrating to this country. And, we can't go on like this without actually undermining the national cohesion, which actually creates the basis of a nation. We've seen it in by-election results, how people are now voting for identity politics reasons rather than on national political issues, and that way madness lies. And we saw what happened in Northern Ireland up to the Troubles, and that was a microcosm of these forces which are now growing unless we do something very radical to stop the mass immigration of more of it.
Most definitely. Neil, you expressed concerns about men sticking their bums in the air. All I would say is don't knock it till you've tried it. And can I thank both of you, because you're good friends of mine, and I know that our audience love you to bits as well. And I've actually got the executive producer of Weekend Breakfast with me, Dean Spencer. Can we lock in the Hamiltons for a regular slot, please? Yes, we will. And I tell you something, you guys, whenever you come on, we have such a great conversation. Your knowledge, your charm, and your rather strong wine breath is simply irreplaceable.
It's really unfair. I was drinking at lunchtime. It's now whatever it is, 7:30. I don't have wine breath. This is water.
And Christine, with your robust liver has processed all of that. Listen, I can't wait to see you soon. Have a lovely evening. Two legends, let me tell you, of politics and broadcasting. The brilliant double act of Christine and Neil Hamilton. Live in the studio now, speaking of legends, talk presenter Phil Dave, and a brand new plaything for me. A brand new talk friend. It is Matthew Hulbert, who is a Lib Dem activist. Matthew, it's our first time together on air.
It is.
Hello. You are a Mark Dolan virgin, are you not?
I am, until this very moment, and what an exciting moment it is.
Yes, what I'm going to do...
May I just say good luck?
Exactly. You're a Mark Dolan virgin. I'm going to be very gentle with you tonight. Okay. And we'll take it easy. We'll play some Barry White and see where the evening goes. Folks, I need to talk to you about this, because we've got footage, boys, of British Muslims praying at Trafalgar Square en masse, alongside and among them the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. I don't like the footage, I've got to say, Phil Dave, and it's not because I'm anti-Muslim. I just don't want a religion that's not indigenous to this country being practiced so publicly.
Well, I suppose I always try and look at something from both sides of the argument. Where I'm looking at this is, I'd say, if you go into a Muslim majority country, how would they react or feel if there was, to say, some sort of Christian ritual taking place in the middle of a very public square? against sort of like the vast majority of the religion of the country, and I don't think it would go down very well. So
it wouldn't go down well. There would be.
Well, I just don't think it wouldn't be allowed.
There would be shell fire.
But you see,
there would be arrests.
I've always said, and I think it's the reason why these subjects are so hard to cover is because people are very quick to shoot them down and say you must be racist, you must be Islamophobic to even suggest such a thing. But the reason why I tell you I'm absolutely not is because I have no issue whatsoever with whatever religion someone wants to practice, but behind the comfort of their own closed doors or behind their places of worship, that's where it should be practiced. Because especially as sort of given my heritage, I made it no hidden secret that I'm of Jewish heritage, and I could never ever condone the idea of performing religious Jewish acts in the middle of any public space, because I know this is a Christian country, and my ancestors, when they came here, knew how lucky they were to call this place home. They would never do such a, I would say, such a provocative act as to say, well, we know you're a Christian country, but we're going to do what we want to now because we don't value Christianity, so we're just going to do what we want instead. It's just disrespectful, really.
Matthew, I'm a little torn on this because you are a Liberal Democrat, and I enjoy and appreciate and share some of the Liberal Democrat values, which is, you know, within the law, do what you like, you be you. But there are no churches in Saudi Arabia, as pointed out by my producer, Matthew. And I can't imagine that a Jewish ceremony like this would go down too well in East London. So perhaps we shouldn't have these public displays of prayer.
Look, I think the truth is we're an increasingly secular country. That is the honest truth. And I say that as a church-going Christian. I go every week, very involved in my local church. I'm on the Deanery Synod, which is part of like the Parliament of the church. So I'm very involved.
Church of England, CV?
In the CV, yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, I believe in an all-saving God and all-loving God. So, you know, but I think we need to face the fact that we're an increasingly secular country, and whether you two like it or not, we're an increasingly multi-faith and multi-ethnic
We've always been multi-faith, though. I actually think the country's always been multi-faith, but the difference is that previous generations have always respected the fact that fundamentally it's a Christian country, and therefore if there is an alternative faith, like for example, I went to a Church of England school at some point, and it was very simple. I respected the fact that I was in a Church of England school. I didn't dare turn around and say, well, actually that's not what I do for my religion, so therefore I'm going to say you should do something this way. Instead, you should serve kosher meat in the canteen. Of course I wouldn't do that,
but
because
no one
that is disrespectful.
But no one, Phil, is suggesting, are they, that this wasn't a perfectly peaceful gathering of people? No one is, neither of you two are saying that it was anything
peaceful.
other than perfectly peaceful.
It was peaceful.
Right.
It may be a peaceful gathering of people, but does it mean that the intention is not to say we disrespect the fact this is a Christian country? Because that's what I think.
So here's a thought. So in a couple of months, a month or so, when it's Easter, I, with other members of the local faith up in Hinckley in Leicestershire, where I'm from, will do our walk of faith through the town, and we'll have a Christian service in the town centre.
Excellent.
Now that's acceptable because we're a Christian country.
Correct.
But people practising their faith in public on one occasion isn't acceptable.
Correct.
How is that not hypocrisy?
It's not hypocrisy at all. It's a Christian country.
Well, we're a secular country, aren't we?
No, it's not. It's a country that is founded.
Let's face it.
It's a country.
Most people don't believe anything.
But Matthew, why are you waving the white flag for Christianity as a practicing Christian yourself? Shame on you.
I'm not. I want to see more people coming into our churches. I'm all about the.
But then that's not the way to encourage them by denigrating Christianity.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying not you per se, but it is by accepting the fact that this country is no longer
Fight
Christian.
for Jesus.
You're not helping.
Jesus is big enough to look after. Jesus is big enough to look after himself.
By graciously accepting that this is somehow no longer sort of a fundamentally Christian country is basically saying it's all right then.
That's just looking at the figures though, Phil, isn't it? Come on.
Yes, but don't we all know the reason why this is the case is because for so many years now, probably even decades, it's become perfectly acceptable to bash Christianity. Can you imagine some of the things that people say about Christianity? I always think, again, like I said right at the beginning of this, I was trying to imagine it, how would it be from the other side? And if someone was to start lambasting Islam in this way, straight away you get accused of being racist. But yet, when you bash Christianity, well, that's all right. And I'm saying someone is Jewish. It's not okay.
But isn't one of the always hear you two guys about British values, right? Isn't one of the most fundamental British values is that we are open, we are tolerant. You can be here and be pretty much what you want as long as that isn't an attack on other people being what they want to be.
But
that is my liberalism.
Where I draw the line is public prayer. for any religion other than the indigenous religion of this country, which is Christianity.
But why not all? Wouldn't it be fair? I think you'd have a point if you said that there should be no public religion, including of the Christian faith. I think then that would be fair.
Well, let's take a listen to the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, on this very subject at Prime Minister's Questions earlier today.
She appointed the Shadow Justice Secretary. He said last night that Muslims praying in public, including the Mayor of London, practising his faith, are not welcome. He described it as an act of domination, straight from the Islamist playbook. If we're in my team, he'd be gone. It's utterly appalling. She should denounce his comments and she should sack him.
Well, there you go. Your reaction to what the Prime Minister had to say, Matthew?
Well, I mean, on this, I think the Prime Minister is right. And, you know, if I might be able to, you guys, I'd like to quote my own party president, a wonderful guy called Josh Babarinde, who is the Lib Dem MP for Eastbourne. And these are his words. Right, I'm quoting him on X today, quote tweeting Mr. Nick Timothy. He said, "Too many are polite to say this, but you, Nick Timothy, sound like a racist."
We won't use that
word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's all right. I was in journalism for years. I know what to. Praised by Tommy Robinson too. You must be so proud. Well, I agree with my party president.
I mean, the issue you've got is that I think that the mood music from that public display of religion was a flex. It was territorial, Phil. I think it was an effort to say, this is our religion. We're not going anywhere. We're growing. You know, I just think that the messaging of that scene in Trafalgar Square was very negative from my point of view.
I just don't understand why anyone could see it as anything else. You know, the truth is, here's another way I try and look at these things, and I may be looking back on history with rose-tinted spectacles and just remembering the good things, maybe, who knows. But I certainly remember with great fondness the country that I was lucky enough to grow up in. And I asked myself, would this kind of thing have happened, say, 20, 30 years ago? And I know categorically it wouldn't. So it sort of tells me that some change maybe for the better. You know, you could argue that obviously sort of the progression in medicine is amazing from the last 20, 30 years. But then change for the sake of change, just to show that we're tolerant, I think that's coming back to bite us now, and that's what I have a real concern about.
You think this was intimidating, do you, and set out to be intimidating? Is that you think that was
I would not be in the least bit surprised if that was the case, in exactly the same way that the so-called peace marches that we have seen against what's going on in the situation in the Middle East are allegedly an act of showing love and humanity towards people who some believe are hard done by. But, you know, I mean, I personally think that to choose the middle of Trafalgar Square in the middle of a Christian country, in its capital city, I just don't know
Matthew,
how
I think
you can interpret it any other way.
I got a criticism of you.
Okay.
You're too nice. You're a lovely man. You're the nicest man in politics.
If that's the worst thing you can say about someone, then...
Okay. You are. And I think, therefore, you're naive, because I think that we've got millions of peace-loving British Muslims who contribute a huge amount to this country,
sure,
no problem. But I think what you've got with this ultra, religious display is a flex, okay? It is a cultural flex to say, that this dominant ideology is on our shores now. It's not going anywhere. And I think that it's actually against British values. So some aspects of Islamism, that extreme, hardline Muslim ideology is bad for the country. And I think that the more we allow our town and city centres to have these Muslim prayers will demonstrate a retreat of British culture, and that's very dangerous.
I just think let people do them as long as they're not stopping other people being them. And
why does it have to be public?
I would also say as well, if I may, that I think there is something that we're not talking about here, which is that I would allege that there's a significant problem with Islamophobia in the Conservative Party, similar to as there was anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and that we're not talking about that anywhere near.
Well, is it Islamophobic to take the view that Islamists represent the greatest terror threat to this country? Is that Islamophobic? Is it Islamophobic to point out that the grooming gangs in the northwest were predominantly racially aggravated on the part of Pakistani Muslims? But these are a minority
of people, aren't they? These aren't the majority of people who...
Sure.
For now, but there is a great concern in this country, and I understand where that concern comes from, that we're talking in as soon as 20, 30 years' time, we're not talking about the minority, and that is deeply concerning to a lot of people who value the principles and the religion that this country was based on.
How many of them how many of these people who supposedly profess those values go to a church each Sunday? I actually do.
I have no idea off the top of my head.
Very few.
But I think that's a terrible shame.
Yeah.
We're gonna. This is a very interesting
But
debate.
this is not going to help that.
The majority of people would agree with Matthew. So let me know your thoughts. I'm going to take a call in a second on this one. Debbie says, good morning, Mark. Good morning. There's someone does breakfast. Breakfast radio. Good evening, Mark.
Autopilot.
Whoops. Good evening. This is pre-recorded. This is ChatGPT. The boss is so happy. He saved a fortune. Debbie says, good evening, Mark. You're on the radio in the evening and the TV. There are wars happening and our children could be going to war and dying for our country, and our Prime Minister is bothered about a bloody tweet. What an absolute disgrace. Prices are rising and he cares about tweets. Samantha, good evening, Mark. My little granddaughter was scared of seeing a lot of men on the floor in a mass group. She was crying. I will never take her uptown again. It was truly frightening. Joanna in Salisbury. Hi, Mark. Muslims aren't allowed a big prayer session like Trafalgar Square in Muslim countries, but we are being intimidated with them. It was the same as another session they had a few weeks before to show their strength, stopping traffic in Tower Hamlets. It's a show of strength like the huge stand in last weekend's for the deceased Ayatollah. Mark says, Dan, sorry, I can't read that. The left are hypocritical. Putting up the British flag is aggressive, but say we're racist if we question mass praying by Muslims. Matthew's in Warrington. Good evening, Matthew.
I think that it's basically, they went into Trafalgar Square and it's their way of sticking two fingers up at everyone saying, we're going to do whatever we want because we're the ones in the front driving seat here. And then you got Keir Starmer in PMQs today because someone questioned it and said, well, this is not acceptable. They're a racist, and he's telling them to sack people. All the Labour Party do is just going for the Muslim vote because they've got nothing else to go for. They're grasping at straws, and we've let all kinds of the people that are coming here, they're not normal Muslim people. They're not normal people who care about our society and want to adopt the British way but have their own religion. They want their religion, their rights, their beliefs, and they want to push it onto us and push us out the way. And because we're too nice and we're too scared because we get classed as racist, they're going, no. And we've given them an inch and they've took a mile, and it's going on and on and on, and it's just getting beyond. It's absolutely ridiculous. What they're going to do, you're going to do a prayer meeting when they do the Troop in the Colour in June. Oh, no, you can't do the Troop. We're going to do a bit of a prayer meeting here. And there's no women there. There's no children there. They're all tucked away. If I went to church on a Sunday and the vicar said to me, where's your wife? Oh, she's at home. She's not allowed to come because it's a male only. I'd be classed I'd be chucked out. It's ridiculous. I'm absolutely sick of it. It's just ongoing all the time. They just want everything. They want all the benefits. They want all the free housing. They want, and it's not just Muslims. It's British people as well. You know, the benefits. But 2 million people have gone on PIPs in the last 18 months just because they got anxiety. And I'm sick of it. How many people have come over on the boats since January? And nothing gets said because everyone's scared. It's frightening, man.
Not everyone, Matthew, I promise you.
I know, but if you don't listen to the likes of yourself, and I don't watch GB News, but it was brought up by the Lib Dems today. Oh, GB News is a propaganda channel for Farage. No, they're scared of Farage. They're scared of people actually saying we've had enough of this, and they're going to. The next thing you know, in 12 months' time, let's take talk off the air because they're too right wing and they're just their voice for all those neo-Nazis. We're just normal British people who go out working hard. We work hard, and we're just getting sick and tired of seeing people coming over in boats, people saying that they're going to pray and do what they want, and they don't give anything back. They don't respect our beliefs. I'm a Christian, but I wouldn't go to Bolton on a Friday and start preaching the New Testament because outside a synagogue, a mosque, because I respect people. Because that's your belief, and crack on. But everyone's sick of it, and if they're not careful, if the government are not reading what's going on out there, they don't see what's going on. You've got Cambodia. She's getting herself ready to pop up, and she's going for all the Muslim votes. It's ridiculous because they've got no one else to go to. They've got no one else to go to, and I can't wait for this vote in May. And hopefully people will get off at the backside and go and vote and say, we've had enough of this. I'm sick of paying taxes, I'm sick of working hard, and I'm sick of people sucking my money out of my bank account. Do you know where I'm coming from?
I do. Matthew, listen, what a brilliant call. Stay with us because you've got a lot of good things to say. Let's get a response from your namesake, Matthew Hulbert, Lib Dem activist. Matthew.
Well, what I would just say, in terms of, Matthew talks there about certain channels, including your own. What I would say is that, you guys and others welcome the likes of me, a very, very liberal, centre-left person, to come on and give a different point of view. And actually, what I would say is that I think channels like this actually probably have a wider range of views aired on them than certain other channels like the now I love the BBC, but I think quite often you'll hear the same kind of person on the BBC, whereas channels like this and others do have a range of voices, and thank goodness that you do.
And we agree on plenty.
Indeed.
We do agree on plenty. But what do you think about what Matthew and Warrington had to say, Phil?
I just think he speaks for a silent majority. The truth is that for so long now that people have just been told you've got to accept it. If you don't accept this, you must be racist, you must be awful, you must be a terrible person. And I'm sorry, but there are a lot of people who, Matthew brought up there about the idea of people on benefits as well, and those who are taking benefit systems for granted. I actually think all of this boils down to people taking whatever they can and getting away with it. It's exactly the same actually on a sort of slightly more serious level with shoplifting as well. It's because people can get away with it that they're doing it. So look, it's to me, I think it is showing that the extreme generosity that Britain has demonstrated for decades has now finally come to back to bite it on the backside, and that's very sad to me.
And so we shouldn't be open, we shouldn't be generous, we shouldn't be tolerant.
I think we need to push people back into their boxes.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean by saying
you pray privately.
You've taken a little too much advantage of our better nature, and now's the time where you're going to start saying, well, actually, no, if it's going to be to the detriment of our culture, if it's going to be to the detriment of our country, we're not having it. No, sorry.
And who is the you in that? When you have taken, who is the you?
Okay, well, we can start off with the group of individuals who decided it was a good idea to do a mass prayer session in the middle of Trafalgar Square. We can say, look, you're very welcome to do that in mosques if you want. Exactly the same way that I would not expect some sort of mass gathering of Jewish people in Trafalgar Square to start praying. Now, I will say one thing. There have been celebrations of Jewish festivals in Trafalgar Square. I'm well aware of it. I've been to them myself. But it's a little bit different celebrating something rather than actually an act of prayer that many people in this country do not believe in.
Let's give Matthew and Warrington the last word. Matthew.
You know what, the Lib Dems, they won't open the door and give everyone a hug, right? But there's a certain limit. You can only give so much. You can only. Right,
don't think Matthew wants to hug me.
You can laugh all you want, right? I spoke to Mark. I go in work at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I work all day, and I bust me guts like many other people. And we
good on you.
There, yeah, it is good on me. But you people down in London haven't got a clue. I've got a HMO.
I'm from Leicestershire, mate. So
just a minute. I'm talking, not you, right? I've got a HMO across the road from me. There's going to be 7 migrants going in there, and they're going to say, oh, they're going to be working the national... No, they're not. They're migrants, because you've took them out of the hotels. I've got 2 beautiful daughters. I've had to put CCTV up around my house to make sure that I'm happy, because they're coming in here. We don't know what they are. We don't know if they're illegal. We don't know if they're sex offenders. We don't know if they're criminals. They're just brought here, and they're put here, and then I've got to protect my family. And if I say anything wrong, I'll be outcasted.
I tell you what, I've got an idea. I'm going to do something that we never do on this show. I'm going to keep Matthew over the break. Matthew, you're going to carry on your point after this.
conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Mark Dolan with you, in for the brilliant Peter Cardwell till 10 p.m. tonight. John in Milton Keynes, good evening, Mark. Regarding Muslim prayers in Trafalgar Square with no sign of any policing, they were quick enough to arrest a single Christian for silently praying near an abortion clinic. Alison in County Antrim, good evening, Alison, how are you? She says, Mark, I agree. I'm not anti-Muslim either. I do believe in giving the Christian religions that are indigenous to the country their rightful place. I met a great Muslim girl through work in my office. We hit it off right away. She and I became close, and probably closer than some of the others I knew before. I could talk to her about anything. Well, I'm pleased to hear that. Now, I'm delighted to say in the studio, Phil, Dave and Matthew Hulbert, and we decided to hang on to Matthew in Warrington because you were making a lot of good points, Matthew. Matthew, why in particular? Because you raised an excellent point about how you get up at 5 in the morning, you work very hard, you pay your taxes, and there's so many people in this country who are taking, not giving, into the system. Why did you object to this public prayer display at Trafalgar Square by Muslims?
Because if it would have been a Jewish ceremony or a Catholic ceremony, then people that were praying in Trafalgar Square would have been kicking off, they'd have been rioting, they'd have been throwing the Palestinians' flag about. You don't need to do that. I'm a Christian. Easter's coming up. If I want to go to church, I'll go to church. You do your religious things. I don't want to upset anyone. You just keep it private. But it's like they want to stick two fingers up at everyone. Right? And it's all right saying, well, there's a million Muslims living in London, which is fine. You got Sadiq Khan there, and he's the biggest liar, the biggest waste of space. Sort out the rape gangs. Sort out the thieving that goes. I went to London. I'm a volunteer with the RAF cadets, right? And we went to London in the summer, and it was scary. We was down there on embankment, walking like 30, 40 young people down there, and you could see the gangs weighing people up, wanting to and I'm not saying they were Muslims. They look more like Eastern European gangs. It's frightening what's going on in London. I would hate to live in London. It's a horrible place. It's a horrible, unsafe, nasty place, and I'm glad. I was there. I was in the Guards. I spent 6 years, and I spent 4 years doing ceremonial duties in London, and in the 90s. And it was a nice place. You could go to London, have a good night out. You could enjoy yourself, see the sights, and then you go there 30 years later, and it's frightening. I listen to you guys talking about what goes on and getting your phone robbed, or someone on an e-scooter, and it's frightening what's gone on.
Well, Matthew, I think you're right, and I think it's playing out in some of our big cities. Matthew, can I salute you? You are a classic example of an alarm clock Brit. You work hard, you get up early in the morning, you've got your beautiful girls, and let me tell you, they've got an excellent dad. More power to you. Thank you for a brilliant call. Right, where to start? Phil, your reaction.
Well, I think that Matthew raises incredibly valid points. It's very hard to argue with most of what he said there. I agree completely. I think the London of 30 years ago to the London of now is absolutely devastating. It is very, very sad what has happened to this once great capital.
And what do we think about public prayer altogether? Isn't the answer, I mean, your implication, Matthew, is that maybe no one should pray publicly, including Christians. Is that the answer?
I think if we're going to be fair about it, that has to be the answer.
And would that be better?
And as I say, in Easter, I'll be part of the march down my town of Christians, and then we'll have a service in the town. But I don't quite know why that is acceptable and this isn't acceptable.
Because it's a Christian country. I can't say it enough. I don't understand why this is so hard to comprehend.
Is there a difference between a march and static public prayer in a kind of fenced-off area in front of a national monument?
Look, I mean, I think the furthest I'd go on this is this. You know, do I understand why some people might have thought, oh, this is something that I'm not used to. I'm not entirely sure what I think about this. Yes, I can understand that. But what I would say to you, I'd repeat, is that it was perfectly peaceful, and therefore, really, what is the criticism?
Was it peaceful?
Look, it may be peaceful, but it depends what it symbolises, and what it symbolises is a total disregard for a Christian country, and that's what I have an issue with. Look, I think if we actually spent a lot of time, rather than sort of highlighting what separates us, the Abrahamic faiths would be baffled by how much unites us. There's an awful lot of similarities. But I tell you something for nothing, what does not unite us is saying, well, we know that this is a different religion, a country that has a different religion to what we practice, but we're still going to do what we want in the middle of that country anyway.
You put an implication on it and add weight to it that I just don't see.
Which is possibly admirable for you, but at the same time it might be part of the problem as to why it's been allowed to happen in the first place.
Okay, elephant in the room time.
Yeah.
Is Islam a takeover religion that seeks domination? Lads?
Well, the short answer is that there are an awful lot of Muslims who believe if you don't believe in what they believe, then you're an infidel, and to many fundamentalists, infidels should be killed. Does that mean what happened in Trafalgar Square was that? No.
Matthew, is it a takeover religion?
Most people in most religions are good.
There you go. Well, listen, you're good. I loved our first outing, first of many. Matthew, you're far too nice. You're not that left-wing either, by the way. Call yourself a Lib Dem. You should be in the Tories these days. 9, so what time is it? Where am I? It is 7:59. By the way, you don't do time checks in the evening. What's wrong? Matthew, Phil, you're big stars. Thank you for that. More to come.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, doesn't Peter Cardwell have nice music? Oh yeah, it's quite romantic, isn't it? Fix a little cocktail, light some candles. Good evening. It is 8 o'clock. You are listening to Talk, the home of common sense. I'm Mark Dolan, in for Peter Cardwell for the next 2 hours. Lovely to have your company. And breaking tonight, Angela Rayner has stepped up her campaign to replace Sir Keir Starmer, but as she slams stricter immigration rules as un-British, will Angela Rayner open the floodgates to immigration if she wins power? What do we think about the idea of Rayner replacing Starmer? Is it a case of be careful what you wish for? Also, Kemi Badenoch faces pressure to sack her justice spokesman for a controversial post on X. But does Nick Timothy have a point. Is public Muslim prayer an assault on British culture and identity? Now, I'm delighted to say that with me down the line is the senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Keisley. Philip, good to see you again. Welcome back to Talk.
Hi, Mark. It's great to see you. It's been a while, isn't it?
It's been too long. I won't take it personally. Now, Phil, what did you make of this very public display of religion at Trafalgar Square? You're a libertarian, so is there anything wrong with people praying to their God in public?
It depends what the motivation is, and it depends what the content of the prayers are, I think. And one of the key issues here that everybody is purposely avoiding, even though they know what the issue is here, is that the particular prayers we're talking about deny other religions, okay? And they deny, in particular, Christianity. So I think there is an issue here, and I think Nick Timothy is right to talk about it. I do find it slightly disconcerting. I was in Westminster a couple of weeks ago, and someone just whipped a mat out and started praying in the middle of the road. I thought, what's going on here? This is a display of domination, I think. And I think we have to be very careful. If we got hundreds and hundreds of people in public places praying aggressively, as I think they are here, then I think there is a problem. And I think it goes beyond the libertarian free speech conversation, and it becomes something else, I think, Mark.
Yes, it looks like a cultural flex, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's, the messaging of this, because you can pray in your mosque, you can pray at home, you can pray in a private space, but this is public, and it's public for a reason.
It's public for a reason, and you have to compare it to other things. I mean, there have been stories over the last year or so, I think, that we both covered, where Christians who've been praying in public spaces have been kind of moved on, or even prosecuted for it. So I think there's a two-tier system here, and it comes back to the things that we always talk about. I think there's quite a lot going on here about asymmetric multiculturalism, where our culture seems to put on a pedestal certain cultures which aren't from this country and which aren't Western. And we tend to kind of denigrate our own culture. But I think there's something else here, Mark, and I think it's a really important point. If this was Judaism, if there was a big display of Judaism in Trafalgar Square, the Jews there would have so much security because they would be in danger. And who would they be in danger from? They wouldn't be in danger from ordinary Muslims, but they would be in danger from Islamists. And if there are atrocities in this country, if there are attacks in this country, it's not from ordinary Muslims, but it is from Islamists. Other religions are not bombing synagogues. They're not nail bombing little girls' concerts. Now, I'm not saying it's the religion. I'm saying it's the fundamentalists behind it. But I think it's an important point, and I think we have to be honest about this. I think we have to have an honest conversation about Islam, public spaces, religion, generally religion in this country. This country is still a Christian country, I believe. And I think we have to just put everything up front rather than hiding behind party politics, political correctness, one-upmanship, trying to get the Muslim bloc vote and all of that kind of stuff. I think all of that kind of stuff is happening. I think it's wrong, and I think we should just be honest.
Well, I think so. Philip, we've got to do all the so-called Islamophobia before it becomes illegal, such as calling out the huge terror threat from Islamists, such as calling out the racially aggravated nature of the grooming gangs that were overrepresented by British Pakistani Muslim men. Philip, here's a question for you. It's the elephant in the room question. Is Islam a takeover religion? Is it a religion that seeks domination?
Well, I think if you look at what's happened across history and across the globe, then you would have to conclude that it is. I'm thinking about Iran in 1979, and this is constantly in my thoughts at the moment because I'm also thinking about the Green Party, and I'm thinking what's happening within that party. I'm also thinking about Lebanon in 1975, and I'm thinking about the whole of the Middle East, all of the countries which are Islamic, and those countries are saying that Israel, that tiny little country, which is about as big as Wales, is a settler colonialist. So I think there is something here. You only have to look at what happens with Islam across the globe, what happens with Islam in history, and the violent, bloody mess that it leaves. Then you do have to have this conversation. But again, we can't have this conversation. It's framed in hate speech. You're frightened of saying anything. I am actually now, as we're talking about this, I'm concerned about what I'm saying, and I don't hate Muslims at all,
Yeah.
But what I do want people to do, I want Jews to feel safe in this country. I don't want expressions of anti-Britishness, anti-Westernness. I don't want hate marches in the name of Palestine every week going through city centres. I don't want my friends to feel unsafe in city centres. So all of this stuff is happening. But again, we're going precisely down the wrong route. We can't have an honest, open conversation about it where we're not self-conscious. There are a few platforms. This is one of them. But I don't know what it's going to be like when the Tsar is fully in place. That sounds absurd.
You're absolutely right. Elaine is loving your work, by the way, Philip. She says, I agree with Philip Kisley. You've hit the nail on the head. This from Kay, the difference between the Muslims praying in London and a Christian parade is the Christian one is inclusive of everyone and non-militant. The Muslim affair is strictly male and muscular. Listen, you've provoked a full switchboard, Philip. Let's take a call, if we may, from Mark in Lincolnshire. Good evening, Mark.
Hi there, Mark.
Lovely to have you on the show. You're joined by Philip Kisley. I want to ask you, is Islam a takeover religion? Is it a religion that seeks domination?
Yeah, 100%. Anybody that's read the Quran would know this. You got the Ummah thing, it talks about it wants a one world of Islam. It doesn't value nation states, if that makes sense. It just really looks at the whole world as being, under Allah, basically. And this is why they behave the way they do. Especially when you start to get within a country, if you start to get Muslims in greater numbers, as we now have in this country, this is what they will do. You'll get praying in the streets. I've seen them where they pray in particularly Christian church grounds. They've done it at Canterbury Cathedral. They've done the whole iftar thing or whatever it is, like the meal after Ramadan. I think it was last year or the year before, they were doing that literally in a massive line outside of St. Paul's Cathedral. Now, you cannot argue against the fact that that is dominance. That is them saying, we are here, we are more important than Christianity, which is how Islam sees itself. And people really need to understand that. They need to realise this, because they will continue this. Now, the average Muslim is a perfectly nice person, and we know this. However, once you've got large enough numbers of them, you will always find that there are very large cohorts of Muslims that want political power, that want religious dominance. And that's when these things
and Mark, that seek primacy over British culture and the British way of life. Alcohol-free areas, halal butchers everywhere.
Yeah, well, this is it. If you could not go to a Muslim country and insist that schools or hospitals only serve non-halal food. Whereas in this country now, that's what we live with. Because they insist, many hospitals now, many schools now only serve halal. They don't do anything else.
The Birmingham branch, one of the main Birmingham branches of Five Guys, the burger chain, Mark and Phil, is now alcohol-free out of respect for the local community.
Yeah, and it's not right. I mean, I hate to do this again, but as far as I'm concerned, Mark, there's only one party in this country right now that's actually willing to do something about these things, seriously do something about these things. And that is, whether people like it or not, that is Restore Britain. That is the only party willing to do
more
stuff
so
about
than
this.
Reform UK.
Yeah, Reform UK don't know where they are with any of this stuff. I genuinely believe that. I mean, 2 weeks ago, they're talking about mass deportations, Mark. And then you've now got Matt Goodwin, who's done a podcast with Winston Marshall, where he laughs at the idea of mass deportations, calls it absurd. And what he's talking about is assimilation. He wants these migrant communities to assimilate into us.
One thing, though, Mark, I take your point about lack of integration, but we're not going to reverse many of these sort of demographic changes now, are we, Mark?
I think it is possible, yes. I think it's difficult, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
Would that go beyond? Would that go beyond the sort of 2 million strong Boris wave, Mark, for you?
Well, I mean, it depends what you want to tackle, because you've got an estimated about 1.8 million people who are here illegally. That needs to be tackled. That needs, serious investigating into, identifying who these people are, where they are.
I agree.
And then rounding up and deporting. That needs to be done. Then you need to look at the other side of things. So again, Restore Britain, they're the only party who are serious about, banning halal and kosher, for example. Now, the whole ethos behind some of the stuff that they're doing is about what is termed as self-deportation. So it's about, the real message of Restore Britain is, and I can't believe that there's a single Reform voter wouldn't agree with this, and that is, there's our country, we do things our way. Because that's exactly how these people would expect it to be, say, for example, in Pakistan, or even in India, for the Indians. They expect you to...
Mark, what a brilliant call.
Yeah,
this is Britain, but stay with us, Mark. This is Britain, Philip. We do things our way.
I think that's in a way that's the real crux of the problem. And you can talk about politics and you can say, well, Reform are going to do this and Restore are going to do that and Advance are going to do this and the SDP are going to do that.
According to Mark, Reform are going to do nothing.
Oh, Reform are going to do
Nothing
nothing,
and Advance are going to do
quo. But the point is, Mark, I think
empty promises from Farage. Matthew Goodwin laughing at the idea of deportations.
Yeah, I think the problem is that we don't take our culture seriously, and they do. This isn't just about religion.
It's worse than that. We hate our culture. We
hate
apologise for it.
Yeah. We indulge in this practice of what Roger Scruton called cultural repudiation.
Wow.
Now, the thing is, with our religion, we quite rightly mock our own religion. We critique our own religion. Okay. But we don't allow ourselves to do that. Fundamentally, we do not allow ourselves to do that to Islam. And if we do that with Islam, we put ourselves in trouble. That's the point. And that's the Islamophobia law that's coming in, which comes from the Muslim Brotherhood. The point is we are borrowing terminology from a group which is a prescribed terror group in many areas of the world. We are using their terminology, which is supposed to be used against us, against the West. We are using it against ourselves. Now, if someone produced a film or a stage play that was something like The Life of Brian or The Last Temptation of Christ or something like that, about Muhammad, then all hell would break loose. And that's the problem we have. It comes down to asymmetric multiculturalism. It's down to us. We do not take ourselves seriously. We are too soft, and we do not value what we have. We do not value our freedom. We do not value our culture. And it's a crying shame, and something, the caller is absolutely right, something really does need to change.
Mark, I hear you, and so does Philip, about your hunger for proper change in this country and reversing the big mistakes of the past. But Mark, the problem we've got, it ain't going to happen, is it? Rupert Lowe is not going to be Britain's next Prime Minister.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. I think that, there's a lot said about, it's an online bubble. I hear that quite a lot. I find that quite funny, really, because what you have to bear in mind is a lot of people that are following Reform, they're listening to talk, maybe your rivals who I won't name, but they're bubbles as well at the end of the day. I mean, I've just had a message from somebody back home in the Northeast, a family member of mine, and she's talking with her friends. She sent me a little video talking with her friends. They know exactly who Rupert Lowe is. Now, these are atypically just not political people. They're just ordinary working class, council estate people.
I think. Sorry, just to interject. Sorry, just to interject again on there. I think there is some research. There was some recent research, wasn't there, that Mark, you might be aware of, where they produced, the researchers produced a picture of Rupert Lowe without a name and a picture of Ben Habib without a name.
Yes.
This was just a few weeks ago, wasn't it? 92% of the British population had no idea who Rupert Lowe was, and 96% of the population, I was either 96 or 94, it doesn't really matter, does it, had no idea who Ben Habib was. So I do think we have to get a little bit kind of stuff. No, I agree. I completely get where you're coming from, Mark, because I know lots of people who know him as well, and I'm not saying you're completely wrong.
Elon
I just think we just have to take into account the research which is framed and which is controlled, rather than just relying on anecdotal stuff.
Can I respond to that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen many videos now from what you would term as citizen journalists repeating this exact test to find out exactly what the crack is out there. The vast majority of people actually do know who he is. They certainly know who Rupert Lowe is through the rape gang. Many of them also know what Restore Britain is now. And here's the interesting thing. When, I think it's YouGov, is this? When they've done polling and Restore Britain have actually been an option, they've polled at 7%. And that was after about 3 weeks of being up and running. They've only been going 4 weeks.
No, it wasn't. It was. I'm sorry, Mark. It wasn't. I don't think it was a YouGov. I think Restore had commissioned that. I think Restore had commissioned that poll themselves. And again, with
Restore did. There was one that Restore did, and there was one that another pollster did completely without Restore.
Yeah, but just to finish the point, Mark, if I can. Sorry to interrupt again. The citizen journalist stuff, again, is not controlled. There is no control with that kind. It's just anecdotal evidence. There's nothing there. It has no academic or no research. It has no research value whatsoever. I understand what you're saying, and I don't think you're a million miles away with this, but I do think we just have to be careful in terms of putting these people up on a pedestal in terms of visibility, because we're going to get really disappointed when the time comes. So I think we have to be realistic.
Now,
and I think we have to aim low in our expectations rather than aim high.
Mark, I take your point about the big following that Rupert Lowe's got, and also I do take your point that, I'd make the point that the world's richest man, Elon Musk, the owner of X, is a big supporter as well. So watch this space. So, Mark, my question to you, make your quick point, and then we're going to go for it.
My quick point was, when Nigel Farage came back to reform, it took them 4 months to overtake the Conservative Party in terms of membership. It's taken Restore Britain 4 weeks, and they're still growing at an average of about just under 1,000 members a day.
There you go. So now, watch this space.
That's proof positive that something's going on out there.
Well, Mark,
I'm telling you,
I take your point.
Yeah,
Mark in Lincolnshire, at 8:21 on a Wednesday night. What day of the week is it? Mark says that Rupert Lowe is an unstoppable political force and that he can be Prime Minister. Mark, thank you for your call. You might be right, and what we'll do, we'll clip this conversation and play it in 3 years' time with Rupert Lowe in number 10. Phil, the bottom line is, notwithstanding that, and I take all of your points, you've got a guy there, Mark in Lincolnshire, he's just not happy with the direction of travel of the country. He wants real change, and he's worried, Philip, that he won't get it from Nigel Farage.
I think this is the thing, and this is what these are the people that Westminster just do not listen to. Very intelligent people, very engaged people who know what the score is, who want change and who want to participate. I've just been thinking recently, because I've just been writing about it, I was just thinking about the Gorton and Denton by-election. Do you know what, Mark? 53% of people did not vote. They did not participate. So when we're talking about the Green Party potentially having something ridiculous like 150 seats in whenever the next general election might be, or a red-green alliance with independent MPs from all over the place, which is really frightening to me. The bottom line is that people are not, and I know they're they're disillusioned with democracy. I know they're disillusioned with the system. My God, they're disillusioned with the Conservative Party. And some people like Mark are even disillusioned with reform. I know, I get all of that. But people have to get out. They have to get off their backsides and vote and make their voices
And
heard.
Philip,
Can't say it enough.
if Nigel Farage wins and becomes Prime Minister, will he let people down?
Well, most politicians do, Mark. I don't think we can put him on a different footing to anybody else. He probably will.
Lots of my viewers and listeners say Nigel is our only hope, Philip. So if he can't deliver, where do we go from there?
Well, I don't think it's just a question of him letting people down on everything. It's not.
Is it a false? Hey, is it a false, Phil? Is it a false prospectus? Is Nigel pretending to be more right wing than he is?
No, I don't think so. I think what the reform need to do...
Is he another centrist dad?
No, I think what reform need to do is get as many votes as possible. And there's quite a while, possibly, before the next general election. So they can roll out their ideas. They can move to the right. The problem I think reform have is that the general public, and we know this because of research, the general public have moved for the moment as far right as they are going to go in terms of large numbers. So what reform need to do is to meet their expectations and then take them with them further right. I think what will happen over the next 2 or 3 years is that reform will be much more robust. They will roll out, they will build on what they've already done. The foundation is there, and I think they will move to the right. Okay, and again, we can have this conversation in 2 years' time, and you can say I was right or wrong.
You're always right, Philip. Philip Kisley, so good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Really enjoyed your company. I know you are a regular in this slot, and Peter Cardwell's very lucky to have you senior fellow at the New Culture Forum. Is public Muslim prayer an assault on British culture? This is Talk.
When conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is talk.
Are public Muslim prayers an assault on British culture? This is a voice note from Tristan. Take it away, Tristan.
I think the thing is our tolerance is going to be our undoing. If we keep saying, oh, yes, we're tolerant, oh, yes, we're forgiving, oh, yes, we're happy to do whatever. No, patience is snapped. We've had enough. Had enough of keep paying, had enough of keep accepting. We've had enough. Even the people that come on the boats, they don't have background checks. So we have no idea who's coming into this country. They refuse background checks over their human rights rubbish. So tell me, where on earth is any common sense or logic to any of this? And the thing is, they've done this once with what happened in Trafalgar Square, and they'll do it again because they can do anything they want because of our tolerance and our forgiving nature. I'm sorry, but the patience has snapped. We're done with it now.
I completely agree. I think we are mugs, are we not? Leslie says call to prayer will be next. That's going to be played out in our cities. And Ernie says, hi, Mark, who organised the mass gathering of the men to go to Trafalgar Square to pray? And why? Why weren't these men at work? People don't just turn up in their hundreds. Someone organised this. And I, for one, would like to know who and why. Now, Donald Trump has attacked the BBC over its corrupt and fraudulent coverage of the Iran war. In a fresh attack on the broadcaster, the US president said the BBC's reporting was unbelievable. At the same press conference, he also blamed Sir Keir Starmer for the decline of the special relationship. Well, do the BBC have a case to answer in relation to their coverage of the Iran war? Are they biased? Are they anti-Trump? Who better to ask than criminal lawyer, director of Mary Monson Solicitors, Joseph Cottrey Monson. Good evening, Joseph.
Good evening to you, as always. Good
Great
evening
to see
your
you.
listeners and watchers.
Well, thank you so much. Joseph, what do you make of the president's intervention here?
Well, hot air in a smoke screen. We're used to it, aren't we? We've got a $10 billion lawsuit with the BBC. Of course, we have some BBC mistakes. BBC is well capable of mistakes, has thousands of employees. But we did get an apology. Guardian reports 12-second clip from the 2024 documentary. People will remember, spliced together two parts of the speech made on 6th of January 2021. And I saw that and I was angry. We're going to fight. We're going to go to the Capitol. But it was cheeky editing. It was kind of not the type of journalism we really associate with the BBC, which is generally speaking fairly conservative about journalists not wanting to get into trouble by seeming to be partisan. That was wrong. It was worth an apology. The law, however, doesn't make lies on their own actionable. We're talking about defamation in a Florida court, of course, Republican stronghold. Historically, one remembers Jeb Bush and the Al Gore election and things being decided there many years ago. The question in law is different from whether lies are wrong. Law doesn't interfere with dishonesty unless it has consequences. Defamation is about an untrue representation. We've got something here that's misleading. Yeah, tick. That goes to somebody's reputation. Well, we're talking about whether Donald Trump invited people to fight. And while that was probably the tone, and that's probably a matter of debate, he certainly didn't do what was suggested that he was making so pointedly obvious in that misleading BBC presentation. But here's the thing. It must cause damage. And the question for the lawyers is this. The question for the judge is this. What is the damage? And it's coming out. These statements are coming out because yesterday these arguments were very well put by the BBC's lawyers in an attempt to throw out or to dismiss the Donald Trump claim for defamation. And one doesn't want to prejudge, and of course, I don't have a dog in the fight, but the BBC say this. There's no evidence that's been shown that Floridians, which is apparently the people that may have seen this on either BritBox, don't know how many Floridians are subscribers to Only Fools and Horses and Steptoe and Son and what have you, and all these EastEnders Christmas specials on BritBox. But on BritBox and apparently some other syndicated television thing. Americans don't watch that stuff though, do they? I think I can say that without appearing to have taken a side. And this is the fundamental thing. You must show loss. You must show damage. Donald Trump won the election. So what's the damage? That's what the BBC say. I have to say that sounds rather convincing. One must, of course, separate the issue of whether somebody's done something wrong from whether it gives rise to an action. If somebody tells you a fib, a mate lies to you and says, I'm at the pub when they're actually with somebody else, we might be aware of such stories in our.
Are you aware of my private life? Interesting.
Yeah, so tell her I'm at the pub. I don't know, but that doesn't give rise to a legal claim. You must show that it's had some kind of effect. And in defamation, it's about a good reputation that's been turned into a bad reputation, and that it's had, further to that, that it's had consequences. I don't actually think this is going to go anywhere. That's my own gut instinct on this. Of course, there was, I think, a CNN claim for a similar number of billions or whatever. And the BBC, like CNN, said the same thing in both cases, that not only is this groundless, but irrespective of whether it's successful, actions such as this in the country of free speech, Americans and their free speech, their amendment rights and all of that, in the country of free speech, this type of stuff, even if it's not successful by such a powerful person, has a potentially chilling effect on an important part of democracy, which is the right of a free press. I have to say I'm probably sympathetic to that, but I'm not a tribunal of fact. People make up their own mind. We can say this. BBC have made fairly strong arguments that there's no evidence that even though they did something wrong and apologized for it under pressure, and they lost their chief executive, didn't they? Or their director general. I think that's right. But the reality is he still won the election, and I think it's probably hard to get beyond that.
There you go. That's a fair point. Joseph, I wish we had longer. Thank you so much for your trenchant thoughts on that rather developing story. Joseph Kotri Monson is a criminal lawyer and director of Mary Monson Solicitors. What do you think? Donald Trump has attacked the BBC. Does he have a point? Joseph says he's got no legal basis for his criticism. So much more to come. Is the public display of Muslim prayer an assault on British culture? This is Talk, the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk. It's lovely to have your company, Mark Dolan, in for the brilliant Peter Cardwell until 10 p.m. And I'm delighted to say that the political commentator Ellie Hodges has written an excellent piece about how we've got to focus on Britain's strengths, not its weaknesses. The country still has resilience, culture, and a sense of possibility. And I'm delighted to say that Ellie Hodges is in the studio now. Good evening, Ellie.
Good evening, Mark. So yeah, I thought I'd write this article just because I think that at the moment there's a lot of people that are getting very, very down about the state of this country, and you can't blame them when every time you open Twitter, every time you open X even, you just see loads and loads of negative things. You see all the bad that's happening all the time, and that's because the X algorithm is going to push things that makes you angry, that makes you upset, because that's things that you have a reaction to. A lot of the time it's not going to push things that are positive, that are optimistic. So I just thought it would be good to write down, you know, what is positive, what we should look forward to, and I just think that at the moment there is that missing where people need to feel optimistic, because if you don't feel optimistic, ultimately what are you actually living for?
Most definitely. So what are the fundamental strengths of the country that will save us in the long run?
So I just think, even if you just look at London, for example, everything London's gone through. If you look, we've been through the Blitz, we've been through the Great Fire, we've been through all of these different things. We've always bounced back. And that's something that's great about this country. And I actually, before coming on air, I messaged some of my friends that live in Australia that have recently visited here and said, what do you actually think of London? Because they've heard all of the negative things, of course they have. And they said, actually, when I came here, I loved it. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Just simple things like getting on a double-decker bus, meeting people, pubs, for example. They absolutely loved it. And I said, what about crime? And a lot of them said that they felt that it was being exaggerated a bit by people when they actually got here. And the only negative that someone had was actually they felt there's a lot of shops here that they shouldn't actually be on London's high streets. And I think we can all agree with that.
Selling vapes or candy.
Vape shops, American candy shops, but these are all things that can be fixed. If you get a government in, all of the right-wing parties are saying we want to stop money laundering. So it's this government, but I mean, they're not really having an effort to do it, but they're fixable things. And I think we need to focus on, a lot of the time, you open X and people are just moaning about things and they're not offering any solutions.
Most definitely. So what do we need to do? What does the country need in order to have a better future? What levers would you pull?
I think that everyone just needs to get involved in what they think is going to save this country and not just tweet about things. So what I try and do is go to different events, go to events with like-minded people, and you just see loads and loads of people that are fighting for the good of this country. And a lot of the time, these aren't people who are on TV all the time or doing big speeches. These are people that are just on weekends, for example, working every single weekend, morning to night, delivering leaflets or talking to people on their front doors or just doing simple things. I think we need to focus on the fact there are still so many great people in this country and that it's not all negative at all.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right, and that's the spirit of the country. I think people are concerned about immigration. That's a big one, isn't it? And if we're going to have this sort of these fundamental strengths and preserve them, then we need to have good border control, don't we?
Yeah.
And bring legal net migration down. So what you're saying is the country's got problems, but all is not lost.
Yeah, exactly that. And I just think that, I mean, I'm sure you'll get people messaging about, oh, she's just being naive or that kind of thing, but it's not that. Being optimistic is not being naive. It's just admitting, OK, we do have problems, but they can be fixed and we need to be optimistic about the future and we need to do what we can to, you know, get things sorted and do what you can. Go to events, network with people, show that people aren't alone in some of their views. So the reason I wrote this article is because I went to an event last weekend and I just did an impromptu speech about we all need to be optimistic because you can get so down sometimes and all you see is negative stuff. And I was so surprised that so many people afterwards came up to me and just like, wow, no one's actually really saying that. No one's really saying about all of the good things.
Yeah, I think what's important is that I think you're 100% right about that. The spirit of the people, the skills people have got. We've got a very dynamic society. We've got a dynamic economy. We've got the 6th biggest economy in the world.
Yep.
Our national debt is still relatively low in comparison to France, Germany, Italy and other countries. So, and there's always hope that a more competent administration will get the economy growing.
Yeah.
But it is 5 to midnight, though, isn't it? That the country has got these fundamental strengths, but they won't be there forever. And if we carry on like we're going with debt, open borders, the madness and net zero, the optimism that you've got won't be justified at a certain point, will it?
No, I completely agree, but I just...
It's got to be fought for, don't you think?
I don't agree with the point that people make when they say Britain is in irreversible decline. I just don't agree with that. It's not irreversible.
But is there a sense that something needs to be fought for, though, that to be preserved going forward?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think you're right. I think it is a great country, but it won't be for long, is my view.
Well, I agree, but I do think that when you look at all of this, you should remind yourself what you have to fight for. for? What are the good things that we still have? Look at our amazing history, look at our architecture, look at everything good that we have, and think this is why I need to fight for things. This is why I should go to events, show my face. And that's my biggest advice to people is sometimes it's really good just to get off social media and go to an event and go to places where you know you're going to meet like-minded people.
But is this why we do need to fight to preserve our culture and why we need strong borders? Because then that thing that is British is preserved.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
Because all the reasons why you're positive are because of Britishness. You know, what this country is, what it means to be British. The English gentleman, the English lady. And that, by the way, is not skin colour, is it?
No,
it's a
not
mindset,
at all.
it's an attitude.
Not at all, but I do think that we are seeing social media like X radicalising people because all they're seeing is negative things. So we need to try and... I know things are negative and I'm not being naive and I'm not saying that this country, everything's amazing and nothing's broken. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's struggling, but we can come back from it.
This is a very interesting point that you've made. So do you think that the political right have actually lost the plot a little bit? Have they gone a bit mad online, thinking that we're going to hell in a handcart?
I think there's a section of the online right, definitely, that are pushing this a bit too much, pushing that we're in irreversible decline. And I really stress on the irreversible decline point.
Because what it is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you keep saying it, it'll happen. It's a bit like Rachel Reeves with her black hole.
Yeah, but I think that if we want to change the way that this country's going, the first thing we need to do is believe that we can. Not just be posting on Twitter all the time, this country is in irreversible decline, everything's awful, and we should acknowledge that we're struggling on certain things, but this is where I actually slightly disagree with Reform. I don't agree with their slogan that Britain is broken. I don't think it's broken. I think it's struggling, but I don't think it's broken.
Well, that's very interesting. How's the article gone down? What's the reaction been like?
It's been mixed. I've had some people comment and just go, oh, you know...
angry people going after you?
Yeah, just some people being, you know, well, no, we've got to such a bad state now that it is irreversible and that everything is so bad. But I've had a lot of people also say it's actually nice to hear some positive things. It's nice to hear someone actually saying what's so great about this country. And I think that's really important. And I think we are actually really missing that in our political discourse, some people actually being positive.
Well, I like it, and you've really helped me out because every Friday, Saturday and Sunday I do a Dolan's Dispatch at 9 a.m. and I'm going to try to take inspiration from your article and from your message and whilst pointing out what's not working, also looking at the positives, looking at the fundamentals of our economy, of our society. It's a great country. It's still a great place to live overall.
Yep, it is. And
because that's the point. You look at the people who think we're going to hell in a handcart. It's like, fine, where else would you go? Where is better? Because I can't think of anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and even
I was thinking Dubai, but that's a little bit dicey at the moment.
I think somewhere like Dubai though is really soulless. I think there's something about London which you don't get in any other places. For me, anyway, being in London, I feel like I can achieve anything. You get there's a sense of opportunity there that I don't think you get in many other places.
Briefly, you're in your early 20s. Do your fellow young friends have the same optimism about the country? What's the mood among young people?
I think there's a mixed mood, but the thing is with optimism, people view optimism in different ways because you have some young people that are pro the Green Party and they'll think that's the way of being optimistic. So it really depends what side of the political side you are, but I think that a lot of people, especially young people, I'm not getting involved. It's all too toxic at the moment, which I completely understand.
Sad, but understandable.
Yeah,
Ellie, where can people read this fantastic article?
So it's on my Substack, so it's just Ellie Hodges on Substack. My ex is Ellie Hodges 62 and everything else is just Ellie Hodges.
Why 62?
I don't know, I think Ellie Hodges wasn't available.
Yeah, you definitely weren't born in 1962.
No.
Ellie, brilliant to have you in the studio. Congratulations on a very largely well-received piece and a great message, which is this is still a great country. Come and see us again soon. Ellie Hodges, political commentator. Check out her Substack. Lots more to come. Harry and Meghan. This is pretty wild, folks. Netflix have just washed their hands of Harry and Meghan. They've actually said they couldn't stand working with Meghan Markle. We'll get reaction to this next. It is wild.
conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yikes! Oh my goodness, this story is wild. Devastating headlines from the Showbiz Bible, Variety magazine, about Meghan Markle, who has infuriated Netflix with her attitude, her behaviour and her horrible viewing figures as her deal with the streaming giant collapses and her relationship with the company that once paid her millions reaches the point of no return. Variety magazine are done with Meghan Markle. What next for the Duchess of Double Standards? Who better to ask than Rupert Bell, Talk's royal correspondent. Good evening, Rupert.
Good evening, Mark.
Nice to see you at a civilised hour of the day.
Well, I'm always up early when I see you at the weekend. No problem. The sun's rising at 6 o'clock. I like to be up with the lark.
And I'm glad you rise as well. You were very, very much a morning person, Rupert.
Yeah, but, maybe Netflix are in mourning about Meghan, or not, as the case may be, judging by the headlines. I think we've got to look through the spin here. Both sides are now trying to sort of say it was a mutual parting of the ways and that it was all sort of understanding. Yes, a variety have gone hock deep in the headlines, but actually, I suppose you have to look at it and say Netflix got something out of the Sussexes. But we have to be brutally honest. Since the documentary, what have they done that's good? Because with all due respect, the As Ever cooking program was an absolute, well, I mean, I don't know.
Did you pick up any recipes? Have you been using more flour sprinkles lately, Rupert?
Well, I always talk to my wife. She's basically, whenever we have dinner, we look to elevate. Which is the key phrase from Meghan's world. But we've never yet resorted to flour sprinkles. And it was anodyne, it was trite, it had nothing to commend it. And I've just watched an Instagram post that she's put on today. It looks like now she's out to show that she's the greatest flour arranger of all time. So it looks like they're clutching at straws. And Netflix, I think, have just verbalize what most people think, and they run a very, well, it's a business. They're out to make money. You know, they've got the new Peaky Blinders film. They've got things that drive an audience. Yet with Meghan does not drive an audience, and the programs have been, and they're just going, enough is enough. And yet, you know, they've said they were going to launch with the brand or the products. Well, these products are also pretty ordinary. They haven't been able to sell anything. So I think I can understand why Netflix have said enough is enough, but we'll try and put a positive PR spin on it, which is what seems to be coming out from Netflix. Meghan saying, and the Duchess of Sussex's team are saying, well, we're looking to go in a slightly different direction, which is speak for something like, you know, this ain't working.
No,
if you look at the business speak is saying between both parties, this ain't working, go and plough your own furrow.
Yes, most definitely. Well, we've all been there. It's a difficult business, showbiz. Yeah. The problem with this story, Rupert, is that the magazine itself, Variety, is very much the entertainment Bible in the US. It's the showbiz Bible. So the reports of Meghan's behaviour, the viewing figures, and the fact that Netflix reportedly are done with the couple will be very hurtful to Meghan and will dent her pride.
Yeah, and I think they do have a problem within the sort of California Hollywood set in that what does she actually offer? It appears now she's having to sell herself to appear at 3,000 Australian dollar weekends in Sydney. Which is not a great look, is it? I mean, if you're hawking yourself out to go to Sydney and asking the people of Australia to fork out £3,000 for a Friday till Sunday morning shindig in a hotel in Sydney, it smacks of desperation.
Rupert, I'd pay $3,000 for a weekend with you.
Well, that's very kind.
If for no other reason, first of all, your wine collection.
Well,
secondly, your effervescent company, and thirdly, your racing tips.
Oh no, Mark, forget them.
Because then I can retire.
Well, no, if my racing tips were any good, I wouldn't be doing 8:45 on a Tuesday, whatever evening it is. So it's a fair point. But no, I'd always make myself available, tips or not, with you, Mark. But the point is, they are, this Australian tour, quasi-royal tour, smacks of, slight desperation. It is interesting. They've done tours, the Sussexes to Nigeria. Well, who's having a state visit here? Given the fool, is the president of Nigeria. Yet they are trying to make themselves at all times look as if they are still working for the royal family, and it's the whole thing is it smacks that they don't know where they're going now, and I'm not sure Meghan knows where she's going business-wise, unless I'm misreading things.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because they've got a few quid in the bank, haven't they? So we've got Harry's inheritance from his late mother Diana, his multi-million-dollar inheritance from the Queen Mother, the money from Spare, about $20 million, I think, in total. But of course, a lot of that cash has gone to the outgoings, the mortgage on the Montecito mansion, bit of security, private education for the kids, staff, and then, of course, managers, the tax man, all the rest of it. Is it conceivable that the Sussexes could eventually run out of money?
Well, unless something really kicks off, they may do, because they want a lavish lifestyle. I'm not sure who's necessarily underwriting their trip to Australia, but they want bells and whistles. So it is very difficult for them, because they do want a very grand lifestyle. Now, Harry would have had that if he stayed within the royal family. He would have come with all the trimmings and it would have been easy. But now he's actually got to go and find a way of earning a living. And with all due respect, I haven't seen him come up with the latest business plan that is going to bring him in substantial income. He does a few speeches, but actually, what are they worth? Turning up at various events in Canada or whatever it is, but they're not going to necessarily fund the complete lifestyle that he would want. So I do think it is an issue, but they've made their bed, they've got to lie in it, and they've got to make it work. But the articles like that have been out in Variety are not going to help their PR. And when you hear also that the people from Centre Bali saying, reporting to Harry that you've made your brand toxic, that just says all you need to know, that actually they've created their own problem, because they thought they'd be able to ride on the coattails of basically having a pop at the royal family. But actually, charities and people don't want people who stir the pot. They want people who are committed, calm, without, endlessly airing grievances, because it's not a very good look for those charities that if one of the major people within that is permanently moaning about his family, yet because he's a member of that family, that's why he is driving business.
You've got to hand it to Meghan Markle, haven't you, Rupert? She's a trier. She's definitely got chutzpah. The problem she's got is seeing through projects. So she was an actress for a while, that abruptly ended after Suits. Then she was a princess. We saw how that played out. She's a philanthropist, but then they've scaled back Archwell. She was a TV host, but there are likely no more of those shows to come. Then she's an entrepreneur. You know, the mind boggles as to what's next.
Well, here's the thing. Anyone who is successful, particularly in business, puts in the long hours. And you would talk, and when she did her podcast with various people, successful women, there was one or two when you actually heard about what those people actually did to get to where they were. They put in long, hard hours, sacrificing and making it work and putting up with problems, overcoming issues. I am not sure that Meghan necessarily does those hard yards. She expects it to come to her. You know, it's like the rosé. Well, you know, she flogs rosé at vast sums. Well, that's probably produced by a big producer, put in a fancy bottle, and away it goes. You know, so actually, you know, some of the people on those podcasts were very interesting, but unfortunately, when you listen to the podcast, it wasn't about those people. Because everything, and you hear reports, it's I. And actually, when you're an interviewer or you're doing anything in a podcast, yes, you're the vehicle. You want to be engaged by the person who's coming to you. And she potentially on paper had some very interesting people. But when you listen to it, it just became her story and trying to cover up and how she was lying awake, sleeping at night, thinking about packaging. Well, I remain to be convinced.
Rupert, it's our great good fortune that you need the money because we love having you on the show and we'll catch up soon. Rupert Bell, Talk's fearless royal correspondent. What an entertaining conversation that was. I've got a big hour to come. We're taking your calls non-stop from 9:30, so book your place on the show. Wall-to-wall calls have got a full switchboard with a simple question. Is public Muslim prayer an assault on British culture?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
very good evening. It is 9:02. Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Peter Cardwell, who is back tomorrow. I'm back Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Very excited, by the way. Sunday morning, a Talk Breakfast exclusive. It's the interview they all wanted. Tom Bauer, live on the show, the author of a devastating new book about Harry and Meghan. That is 9:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. Lots to get through this hour. But let's enjoy Peter's music, shall we? It's a live band. Well done, lads. Got Ray on percussion. Stevie on lead guitar. I better get on with it. I'm being paid by the minute here. Folks, let's talk about some big stories. Angela Rayner, the ginger growler, has stepped up her campaign to replace Sir Keir Starmer. But is she going to open the floodgates to immigration if she wins power? She's not happy about stricter immigration rules. She says it's un-British to have border control. Meanwhile, Rachel Reeves thinks it's a good idea for Norway to drill for oil, but not for us. Make it make sense. And Kemi Badenoch faces pressure to sack her justice spokesman for a controversial post on X. But does Nick Timothy have a point? Is public Muslim prayer an assault on British culture and identity? Lots to get through. And book your place at 9:30 because we're going wall-to-wall calls. 0344 499 1000. Live and uncensored. This is Talk, the home of common sense. A big reaction to our conversation around public Muslim prayer at Trafalgar Square. This from an unnamed texter who says, "Good evening, Mark. Where is the voice of the Church of England? They should be vocal on this issue. We are a Christian country." Paul in Australia says, "Mark, I'm behind your caller, Matthew, earlier. He is saying what many are thinking. I'm a Brit living in Australia and fear for the way Britain is going. And I think Australia are not far behind." Lindsay in Wimborne. Good evening, Lindsay. She says, "Mark, please search Muslims praying on Bournemouth Beach on YouTube. This was last summer and 100% it was done to intimidate." Lindsay says, "Thank you, my first text to the show." Well, Lindsay, thank you for that. Thank you for your kind remarks. Lovely to have you on board. This from Phil in Portsmouth. Good evening, Phil. How are you tonight? Phil says, "Good evening, Mark. This whole Muslim call to prayer is definitely a show of force. It's new, but only in the last couple of years. I wonder why. And it's not just Britain, it's happening around the world as well." Phil, soon it's going to be illegal to talk about Islam. So let's enjoy ourselves. Let's fill our boots until we get our collars felt. Delighted to welcome the leading comedian and political broadcaster Paul Cox to the show. Good morning, Coxie. Evening.
Do you know what? We nearly always exclusively meet first thing in the morning, Mark, so I'm not surprised.
It's going to keep happening. Paul, listen, I'll let you do the talking because you've got a brain in your head. Angela Rayner has made a beeline for the top job. Do you think she'll be our next Prime Minister?
I think there's a good chance she will do. And every time I've said that myself in the past, there have been a few people who raised an eyebrow, and I understand exactly why. Angela Rayner isn't really prime ministerial, shall we say. Not to my mind, anyway. I think that she is someone who creates debate. I think she brings attention to herself. There's a certain charisma about Angela Rayner. I'm not sure it's the charisma I'm looking for in a leader. But let's not forget that this is a lady who lost her last position because of tax avoidance. That's not settled. She's the champion of the working class, but currently on the the after dinner speaking circuit at £100,000 a pop, allegedly. So this isn't someone who really lives by her own rules. And she's talking, we'll get onto it in a bit, she's talking about things being un-British. This is also a great proponent of someone who has denigrated the British culture, said it doesn't really exist, and replaced it with something else, and then uses British culture in order to make her points after smashing it to bits, Mark.
Most definitely. Well, let's go on to her intervention in the last 24 hours. And this is regards the move by the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, to extend the period by which you have to wait for indefinite leave to remain from 5 years to 10 years, with lots of terms and conditions, such as speaking the language, not having a criminal record, income and much besides. This was a welcome move from this Labour government. Paul, I've always said if they do good stuff, I will say that. I will celebrate it on the show. But it looks like Angela Rayner wants to reverse that. She says that stricter rules around immigration are un-British.
Look, it's very clear what's going on. They are appealing to constituent civilians that the Green Party are scooping up in their droves. So Angela Rayner has set a stall out and said, if I am Prime Minister, I will leap to the left and we will seek to appease as many minorities as possible, by which I mean the Muslim population of the UK, because that's exactly how the Green Party won in Gorton and Denton. And that's exactly what Angela Rayner has identified as potential pathway to success should she become Prime Minister. There's nothing anti-British about seeking to tighten up our borders. The idea that it's British to have open borders is an absolute nonsense. I mean, for 1,000 years, we went conquesting the world, closing down our borders, opening up other borders.
Those were the days.
Those were the days, Mark. God save the king. And I would say this king is probably on her side. So we are in a bit of a sticky situation if we're of the traditional bent.
Well, definitely. Shabana Mahmood is an impressive politician, and this was a great move to make people wait 10 years and to prove that they're worthy of having indefinitely to remain in the country. She might reverse that. That means that our viewers and listeners will be on the hook for billions in the long term, Paul, because what you're looking at is granting citizenship to low-skilled people who will likely be reliant on the state for the rest of their lives.
Exactly.
So it comes with a big bill. It's like a mortgage, or if you like, a Ponzi scheme.
Well, I do like it, Mark. I think you're absolutely right.
I've heard you like it.
It is. I like it indeed. It is a Ponzi scheme. It is a pyramid scheme. It's quite the scam, actually, and congratulations to them for continuing to pull this scam off. Unfortunately, people like myself and our viewers and listeners are on the receiving end of this. I think 10 years is right. Why not? Look, it's not unusual for this sort of a policy to be in place in many countries, westernized countries around the world. If you want to be there and you want to immerse yourself in that culture, you want to contribute to the system, you want to be something because you don't think you can be something where you are, you'll wait 5-10 years. Why wouldn't you? If you're an economic migrant and you're just looking for that, that easy money and someone to look after you entirely, then we are perfect for that right now. Just come on in, boys, because they're all boys, and we will give you everything you absolutely need, and you'll have to do nothing for it. What Angela Rayner and her ilk are doing is putting all their chips on those people becoming Labour voters. They'll probably become Green voters, actually, because the Greens seem to be doing an excellent job convincing these people that they're the people for them. But this is no good for us, Mark. Absolutely no good for us whatsoever. And I don't mean you and I specifically, although I don't think it works well for us. I mean people that have any sense of tradition, any sense of charity starts at home, any sense of protecting their borders, or any sense of wanting the economy to improve. This old convention, we often hear this, by the way, we'll say we need mass migration to prop up the economy. It doesn't work without it. Oh, you won't have, you won't be able to afford, etc. No, that is something you've put in place, by the way, when I've created this enemy here. They've put in place and said, this is how things have to be. You can completely reverse that. That economic model doesn't have to stay in place. We could just say, draw up the drawbridge, send people home that aren't contributing. You've had a great time. See you later, lads. And we need to start building our economy in a way that builds from within, Mark.
Most definitely. Rayner is a total dullard, says one listener to the show. It demonstrates how far the political system has fallen, that she's even being considered possible to be the Prime Minister. I mean, you have to wonder, don't you? You mentioned that you don't see her as prime ministerial. She's not a statesman, is she? But she could get in and would arguably, Paul, be worse than Starmer.
Yes, I think she probably would be worse than Starmer. The problem I have with that is, other than the obvious reasons, is that Labour are going to cling on to power come what may. Civil war could erupt and they wouldn't call a general election. So whatever happens, we've probably got 3 more years of this. 3 years of Angela Rayner of damage. And I'd like to see I'd like to see people of Britain represented. And I'm not talking in some sort of ethno-nat way. I'm talking about the people of Britain that contribute, assimilate, understand our culture, and want to make Britain great again. And I don't think she's appealing to those people. I think she's appealing to the people that don't want that at all, that what they want to do is change Britain to their liking.
Well, most definitely. I've got some breaking news courtesy of my brilliant friend and colleague Kevin O'Sullivan, by the way, Paul Cox. I don't know if you remember the Albanian criminal whose deportation was halted partly because of his young son's aversion to foreign chicken nuggets. Clevis Disha entered the UK illegally as an unaccompanied minor. He later gave a fake name and falsely claimed to be born in the former Yugoslavia. Well, he doesn't sound like a doctor or an engineer, but it's my understanding, and we've got a Sun exclusive coming in the next few hours on this, Paul, that this man has had his appeal upheld. He may well remain in the country because his son doesn't enjoy a certain breaded snack.
It's remarkable, isn't it? I think, first of all, it would be cheaper to pay someone like Just Eat, Uber Eats or someone like that to deliver it to wherever they are. Look, on the taxpayer, £1 million a year just for Just Eat to deliver the correct chicken nuggets to wherever they need to go back to. That would be a lot cheaper than keeping them here. This is someone who's committed a crime, by the way. These aren't people that we want here. We're trying to build a society. We have actually built a society. It took quite a long time, actually. Many people envied that society. We created modern democracy. And what we're looking for is to protect that, because it was hard won. Hard won. The only thing I'm hearing from the other side of this argument is we need to break all that down to appease. But why would we? Of what benefit is that to anyone? Even the people they're trying to appease will not benefit. They'll just stay as they were.
Most definitely talking common sense as always. Paul, can I get a quick response from our big conversation of the evening? Is public Muslim prayer an assault on British culture and identity?
Given everything that we've seen go on over the last couple of years, particularly even the last couple of months, absolutely. Okay, so Jim Ratcliffe said that we were colonised. This looks like colonisation. Now, Islamists come from the Muslim population. Islamist extremism is our biggest terrorist threat. So it's not like people are going, oh, we just don't like this sort of thing. We much prefer Christianity. I'm not suggesting that no one's thinking that. I know that people are. I speak to them sometimes. But the point is, the optics are absolutely terrible. No, we don't need it. These are not an oppressed minority. You know, they are not an oppressed minority at all. They're in the middle of London, by the way, which basically is the Muslim capital of Europe. So I don't know what their issue is. They can just quite easily go to the mosque. And the call, Adan, I think it's called, that call is specifically pro-Muslim and anti-Christian. This isn't just your average call to prayer. This is just for the believers, and those believers are Muslim only, Mark.
Yes, and I can't see too many women at these public prayers.
That's not something that they're particularly interested in. Like, they like to cover their women up, keep them at home, and occasionally give them a damn good beating.
Does it surprise you that the left are so quick to defend the cause of this rather ultra-conservative, arguably misogynistic faith?
No, they don't care. This is the same with all socialism. They don't care. Their principles don't matter. They're like wet Weetabixes. They break very, very easily. They don't care that these Muslims are incredibly conservative.
Yeah, you can see the footage, right? Not a woman in sight.
Not one. Well, I'm not sure Sadiq Khan's a man, but sorry. That's a serious show, Mark.
That's harsh.
It's a serious show. But we don't. This is not something here that I think we need to see. We don't need to, why do they need additional support? They've got all the support in the world they could possibly want, Mark.
Most definitely they do. Well, listen, lots more to come. I'm delighted to say the fantastic comedian Paul Cox is with me for another few minutes. Next up, voters back keeping wartime leader Winston Churchill on £5 notes rather than being replaced with wildlife. And Marilyn Monroe goes woke. That's next.
conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now, earlier in the studio, Ellie Hodges, broadcaster and political commentator, said, actually, we have to be positive about what's happening in the country. Here is a response from Jay. Take a listen to this in a voice note.
The young lady who's on now, I'd like to know, she's in her early 20s, early 40s, 41. I'd like to know this, you know, the London, the optimism, the excitement, something you don't get anywhere in the world. Huh? I've been to cities around the world where I feel safe. I don't feel safe in London. And this is a person that goes there regularly, has got family from there. I have no idea what you're on about.
Jay, fair point. What about Angela Rayner as Prime Minister? What's not to like, says Uel in Ballymena. Angela Rayner, a working-class woman as PM, who knows how hard it is for us on the breadline. Bring it on. Betty says, so Andy Burnham gets his supporters to back Angela Rayner. She makes him a lord and brings him into the cabinet, but he'll never be Prime Minister. Paul, briefly, before we get to some quite fun stories, woke madness, what do you think is going to happen at number 10? Do you think Starmer survives the year?
No, I think there'll be a catastrophe for Labour in the local elections. It's very difficult to predict politics at the moment, but one thing I think we can predict is that Keir Starmer is the most unpopular man in the country. So I see Labour, as a result of him being Prime Minister, getting a tanking, and then it is open season because I think there's going to be great victories for the right. There's going to be great victories for the left. I think we're going to probably see the Tories and Labour decimated to some degree. And they're going to strike back, Labour, with probably some absolutely radical politics, because they will, I think if Greens do well, they'll see that as the formula to success. And, we'll get, if we don't get Angela Rayner, we'll get someone equally as bonkers. We'll get Ed Miliband. I say Ed Miliband would be much worse than Angela Rayner, and I'm not saying that Angela Rayner would be any good at all.
This from Catherine in Cardiff. Paul Cox is a fabulous contributor, Mark, as is Steve N. Allen, unlike the pathetic far-left so-called comedians who appear on the BBC. Very refreshing. Well done, Talk. Well done us, Paul.
Yes, well,
for booking
well done you. Well done, Talk. Thank you for having me.
Paul, let's talk about Winston Churchill. Great news. A majority of voters back keeping him on the £5 notes. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, it's heartwarming to see that, by the way, because there was deep-set fear that we might not see that. Look, we can't. Look, I understand it, right? The reason that Churchill was controversial was because he was incredibly successful. We have to look at the outcomes and the products of what Churchill produced, and that was peace in our time. And we should be, and I am, incredibly grateful to this man for everything he did in the last 20 years of his life, because without him, we could be in all sorts of trouble. Now, I mean, just imagine the state of the country now. It could be overrun by Muslims, and we wouldn't want that, Mark. So I think he tried his best. He did incredibly well, and I don't want to see him replaced with an owl. And by the way, this was about, oppressor and the oppressed. Has anyone spoken to the mice community? Because let me tell you, they are not impressed with the owls, by the way, Mark.
Well, they're not. They can't be too happy about that. They'll be very triggered by the sight of an owl. It's interesting. You mentioned the sort of growing Muslim population. Maybe an image of the Prophet Muhammad, a £5 note. Can't see anything problematic there.
Let's get someone to draw a cartoon, shall we?
Yeah. Good luck to the intern of the Bank of England that gets that job.
Good luck. They'll be in hiding for the rest of their life.
Yeah, the office junior, Steve. He's like, oh, dear. I wish I hadn't come into work today. Let's talk about Marilyn Monroe, very talented actress, of course, no longer with us, one of the most glamorous women of the 20th century, but she's had her collar felt by the censors.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's only a matter of time before they come for absolutely everything. Rupert the Bear's in danger.
Of course he is.
Why
is that a pro-Palestine scarf Rupert the Bear wears?
The trousers could be, couldn't they?
They are a little bit.
The old +4s.
I always knew he was a lefty.
Yeah, he probably was, wasn't he? Well, he definitely, him and Bill Badger were definitely part of the middle class.
I prefer Paddington, massive Tory, big reform supporter, big Farage fan.
Who doesn't like Marilyn Monroe, by the way? Who looks at Marilyn Monroe and thinks, oh my God, this is incredibly controversial? You have to look through the prism, through the paradigm of a very finite point in time, i.e. 2026, and go, we're looking back through this paradigm and we don't agree with this and we want to warn everybody because we wouldn't want anybody to be upset. We're all grown-ups, by the way. We're all adults. We can make our own mind up. We don't need anyone to tell us. We don't need trigger warnings. We don't need anything. Just leave us alone. Get on and fix the economy. Fix the problem with illegal immigration. Stop telling us what to do.
I would stand up and applaud, but I'd be out of shot. Paul,
something would be in shot, Mark.
Well, that's a very good point, and numbers would go up. I'll tell you, ratings through the roof. Paul Cox, we love your work. Paul Cox Comedy on YouTube, am I right?
At Paul Cox Comedy, absolutely. Thank you for your support, Mark.
A genius of a man, the brilliant Paul Cox. Thank you for the entertainment, the truth bombs, and the lols. Well, it's non-stop, wall-to-wall calls next. It's about your opinions till 10. Full switchboard. But there's space for more. So give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Is public Muslim prayer an assault on British culture and identity? That's next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thanks to my amazing team this evening. Louis is directing our TV output. If you want to watch the show, head to YouTube and search Talk and up we pop. The brilliant Matt has put together a beautiful show. He's been booking guests. He's taking your calls. He is elite level and I would say ripe for a pay rise. I'll text the boss later. And Dean Spencer, our executive producer, this is a man, he's got gambling debts, which is why he's here this evening. And he looks after Weekend Breakfast. By the way, we've got a big booking, have we not? It is the interview they all wanted, a Talk Breakfast exclusive. Tom Bauer, the author of a devastating new book about Harry and Meghan, live on Sunday's show, 9:30 a.m. We got a message from Tom Bauer, did we not? And he said, I will do it for Mark Dolan. So there you are. We're in. Sam is, of course, our lead engineer, which is why I sound so good tonight. As does Mary in Cyprus. Good evening, Mary.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. I'd like to ask you what you make of the sight of 100-odd men praying as Muslims in front of the National Gallery at Trafalgar Square. What's going on there?
Well, I think it's absolutely unbelievable and unnecessary. I lived in the Middle East for 7 years, and I never ever saw the public praying in mass.
In Muslim countries, you didn't see public prayer. That happened in mosques.
That happened in mosques or in their homes or whatever. And also, I would like to say, I mean, I'm talking about Bahrain. There's a Christian school there called St. Christopher's and a Christian church, also called St. Christopher's. So everybody mixed, and it was a truly lovely country. It's changed a bit since I was there, admittedly, but I'm sure it's still as nice.
I liked Bahrain. I was there to do some comedy shows. It's very liberal. There's a few places where you can get a beer.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, as residents, we were allowed to have a license. And we were allowed to have so much beer or so much alcohol in the house per month. But if you were having a party, you could go along to them and say, well, we're having a party. So they would stretch the amount for you. I mean, there was nothing. There was absolutely no problem. It was one of the nicest times of my life living there, to be perfectly honest. So, this business in London, in my opinion, is absolutely ridiculous. And the other day, a scout parade was not allowed by the police unless they paid £9,000.
Ridiculous.
Which was absolutely ridiculous. And yet you've got all these people, and I didn't see one policeman, I admit, but I bet there were police around. I mean, I'm sorry, I know I live in Cyprus, but I was born and brought up in England, and looking at it from this angle, from where I am, I couldn't ever go back.
Well, I don't blame you. You've made your escape, and so many of my viewers and listeners tell me when I'm on air that if they could afford to leave Britain, they would be off ski. It is very sad. Mary, with all of these men praying at Trafalgar Square, if it's not necessary and doesn't happen in Muslim countries, why did it happen? What's the message? What are they up to, Mary?
Well, I mean, they're trying to dominate, aren't they? And it's silly. And I'm not sure it was all men, was it? Were there not some women?
Predominantly men. There? Predominantly men, including the London mayor. I would say 95% male.
Yeah, but you see, what example is he setting? Stupid little man.
What makes you call him? What makes you call him a stupid little man?
Well, he shouldn't be. I know that that is his face, but I don't think that he should be leading something like that in the middle of the London, particularly Trafalgar Square, in a Christian, and I say Christian again, country. Britain is a Christian country.
And Mary, do you think it's harsh, intemperate language to call him a stupid little man?
Well, it's probably a bit insulting, but he doesn't. I don't think he needs a very good example somehow, but that's just my opinion from a distance.
And Mary, you're entitled to your view. I will tell you that, because there are many critics of Sadiq Khan. His record as Mayor of London, of course, he'll argue he's been re-elected, I think, 3 times now. But he's got his fans and he's got his detractors. You're one of them. Before I let you go, Mary, how do you think things are going to play out in the UK? What do you think's going to happen to this country in the next 10 to 20 years?
Well, I hope that there will be an election, and I hope certainly that the Labour and the Green Party don't get in again. I mean, the last time there was any sort of trouble in Cyprus, which is where I am, was in 1974, and Britain didn't back them then, when we've ended up with a divided country.
Yeah.
Right? And now we get to 2026, and look what's happened. I mean, has the Dragon ship got there yet?
I think it's still on its way. It'd be quicker to commission a Royal Caribbean or P&O.
Well, we've got plenty of ships surrounding us from other countries that are helping us, but it doesn't show very... What about the poor people on the base of Akrotiri?
I know.
The Brits, what must they be feeling? I mean, I live about 20 kilometres from Akrotiri, so we're fortunate we don't see too much. But in the summer, there's a beautiful beach there called Ladies' Mile, which probably won't have many people on it. I mean, it is... Oh, I don't know. It just makes me so cross to see what's happening to Britain. Well, but we moved out in 2000 when Tony Blair was... But I'd rather see him. I never thought I'd hear myself saying this, but I'd rather see him as Prime Minister now. At least he's got charisma and class, not like the lump of dough we've got at the moment.
Mary, you're dropping lots of truth bombs tonight. Really enjoyed your call. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Very articulate and no punches being pulled. Mary in Cyprus there with harsh words for the Prime Minister and the Mayor of London. Daryl is in Lincoln. Good evening, Daryl.
Oh, hi, Mark. How are you doing? All right.
I'm very, very well. How is your Wednesday evening going?
Oh, it's fine, thanks. Yeah, I'm in my lorry, out in my lorry.
What time did you start, Daryl?
I started at 5 this morning, and I finished driving at about 6:30, 7:15 tonight.
Oh my goodness! Well, that is a long day and an early start. And the one positive in your cab today, which is a nice sunny day, right?
Oh, beautiful day today. Yeah, it was. Yeah, beautiful.
Does it make it easier when you're driving your vehicle when you're driving, as you do for a living, that it's sunny? Does that actually improve the experience?
Yeah, it does really. Yeah, it's nice to have the sun out. And
puts you in a good mood, doesn't it?
Yeah, arm out the window, that sort of thing.
well, I'm glad to hear that. Now, Daryl, what do you make of what happened in London, Trafalgar Square? Muslims praying en masse. Some people say a celebration of faith. Others say a kind of cultural flexing of the muscles.
Yeah, I don't think it's right at all. I used to live in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, for several years, and then I lived in Egypt and Morocco as well. And I'm married to a Muslim woman, so obviously I had to become a Muslim to do that. And all the Muslims that I know are Sunni Muslims, and the Quran tells you to respect other religions and other cultures, and praying is supposed to be done in private, in a mosque, or even if you're sort of in a situation where you're at work, it's a private thing that you should do without impeding other people and respecting other people. So you keep it to yourself, and that's the right way that it should be.
Daryl, was a message being sent at Trafalgar Square?
Well, I find, there's a very strong extremist Shia Muslim movement in this country. I think probably it's fair to say 35 to 40%, and they tend to have this agenda, and it's a little bit weird. It doesn't fit in with the Muslim beliefs that I've sort of been taught. It's not. It's almost like they're kind of trying to because you shouldn't force your religion onto anybody else at all.
And you shouldn't call people that don't share your faith an infidel.
Definitely not. You should respect other religions. Because at the end of the day, if somebody is a Christian or a Jew or they're following their faith and they believe in God as well, so they're on the right path as far as you're concerned. So they're not doing anything wrong. So you know, you should respect that, and you know, Sunni Muslims, you know, I think if you speak to any Sunni Muslims, particularly, you know, from Islamic countries of that culture, they would all tell you the same thing, that you know, it might be a different religion and there's slightly different things in the beliefs, but they still respect those religions and cultures, you know. But unfortunately, you know, these extremist Shia Muslims, they don't hold those views, and they don't even respect Sunni Muslims, you know. So you know,
it's that wing of Islamism which struggles with integration and which is perhaps a threat to British culture and tradition.
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard people, especially when I was in Morocco, which is probably the highest percent of Muslims in any country virtually in the world. I think it's nearly 100% Muslim in Morocco. And they're very wary of the Muslims in this country. You know, they're aware that there's this sort of like strange Muslim culture, and they don't trust them.
The extremist, Islamist. I mean, we've heard about the UAE, haven't we, Daryl, not wanting to send young people, their young people, to the UK for university for fear they'll be radicalised.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a Muslim country.
Yeah, it's very strange, and there's something going on. There's an undercurrent in this country that's very disturbing, I think. You know.
Well, how does it all play out? Because some people see Islam as a sort of takeover culture that seeks domination, but you're offering a more nuanced view where you'll say that some Muslims have that attitude, others do not. So how does it play out? I mean, is it a battle between moderate Muslims and the Islamists?
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to end up, because I mean, one of the people that you had on the show earlier sort of said that if you look at you know, Islam in history, there was a lot of takeovers of countries, you know, particularly when you look at places like Iran and Lebanon, you know, and not in a good way either. So, you know, it's tricky, really. I don't know how it's going to pan out.
It's complicated, isn't it? I mean, I've got no doubt your wife is a lovely lady, and the family and friends and all the rest of it. And, you know, you've got Reform UK, whose shadow Home Secretary is a British Muslim. The mayoral candidate for London, Leda Cunningham, is a Muslim as well. So it's hard to work out how this plays out. I had Trevor Kavanagh on the show, Daryl, a few days ago, and I said, if Britain becomes a majority Muslim country, which demographics suggest could happen over time, is that a problem? And he said yes. Is he right?
Yes. Yeah, I do think that.
And you say that as a man who has converted to Islam.
Yeah, I'm not happy with it. I want Britain to stay as Britain, and it should be a Christian country. And you know, it's the way that this country, you know, the bedrock of this country, and I think people have got to try and fight and defend it. Really, you know, and it might even come to it in the future. I don't know. It doesn't bode well. But it's very sad, and I mean, I think it's disturbing for Muslims who are sort of, you know, because there's a lot of Muslims who are good people, and you know, in this country as well, and they just go about their life and their religion without wanting to sort of cause any problems to anybody else, and they just want to do it in private and that. And you've got this radical extremist group who are kind of, well, they're ruining the name, and they're sort of like making life difficult for Muslims who, you know, and a large percentage of Muslims, you know, are peaceful, peace-loving people who just want to go about their own business and not cause a problem for anybody else.
No, and to integrate and to start businesses and to marry us, fall in love with us, be our neighbours, be our friends. Daryl, before I let you go, you've suggested that Britain should not become a majority Muslim country. That would be a problem. You say that as a converted Muslim yourself. Would your lovely wife agree with you on that?
Yes, I think she would. I don't think she would want to see this country change into something different. You know, it's got a lot of history, this country has, and you it would ruin the country, because well, it would ruin it, and you'd lose a lot of like the heritage and the culture, So
when you, just because it's been such a fascinating call and giving you more airtime than usual, Daryl, but why would it, if Britain became a majority Muslim country, in what sense would it ruin it? I mean, obviously it would cease to be so British. You would have less pubs, wouldn't you, and a few other things.
Yeah.
But in what other ways would you say it ruin the country?
Well, you'd have the call for prayer would be heard 5 times a day all over the country, and a lot of people wouldn't like that. Halal would become the norm in shops, and
which many consider to be a cruel way of slaughtering animals.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'd lose like Christian churches, because we've got beautiful cathedrals and churches and architecture in this country, and you'd lose a lot of that. They'd either get destroyed, or they'd get sort of converted into mosques or something like that. It would be disastrous for this country to sort of go down that channel. I wouldn't like to think of that at all, really. So.
Darren, it's been incredibly interesting talking to you. Thank you, Daryl. Whoops. Daryl, can I put my teeth back in? And I've not even had a drink. Daryl, really, really enjoyed that. Will you promise to call me again? And my best wishes to your lovely lady. She's a lucky lady. She chose well. Daryl in Lincoln there, who is a Muslim himself, he's converted, but said it would be a problem for Britain to be a majority Muslim country. That would be suboptimal. I'm going to take more of your calls, non-stop your feedback, going forward until 10 o'clock. And a simple question: are public Muslim prayers an assault on British culture and identity? This is Talk.
When conflict breaks out anywhere in the world, it has consequences here at home. Talk War is your definitive national security briefing. From the conflict in Ukraine to the tensions in Gaza and the latest escalation with Iran, this is where you'll find comprehensive comment and expert analysis with multiple updates throughout the day. The Talk War podcast from Talk, available on the Talk app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you so much for the calls, the texts and the voice notes. Mark Dolan with you until 10 o'clock. The brilliant Petri Hoskin is up at 10 p.m. And I'm back Friday, Saturday, Sunday The Breakfast Show, 6 a.m. till 10 a.m. And on Sunday at 9:30 a.m., it's the interview they all wanted, a Talk Breakfast exclusive. Tom Bauer, the author of a devastating new book about Harry and Meghan, live on the show at 9:30 on Sunday morning. But do join me from Friday at 6 a.m. Angela Rayner may be our next Prime Minister. Will she be worse than Starmer? Andre's in Brighton. Good evening, Andre.
Hello, good evening.
I would imagine that Brighton was stunning this afternoon.
Yes, Angela Rayner has bought an £800,000 flat in Hove, not far from where I live.
Just down the road.
Well, she likes living in a vibrant, multicultural area, doesn't she?
Well, she does. Is Hove multicultural?
Well, it's a big LGBT, and there is. I mean, there are some roads that look like the Middle East. It's all vape shops, nail bars, Turkish barbers. There's a lot of students, of course, which makes it a very left-wing city. But what I wanted to phone you about was I wish talkTV would always show that iconic photo of Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer taking the knee during the Black Lives Matter protest.
Yeah.
They're sitting there together. And the reason why I object to that, now, obviously, no one can condone the brutal policeman. He didn't deserve to die like that, but he did have a long criminal record.
Yeah.
And also, I don't recall Mr. Starmer or Angela Rayner ever visiting a memorial to Lee Rigby or any other person who was murdered by foreign criminals or illegal immigrants or Muslims or terrorist victims. It seems to be, for some reason, an African-American criminal who died in the United States somehow is more iconic and important than the hundreds of people who've been murdered here.
Well, George Floyd was a criminal, and his blood was full of illegal narcotics when he passed. It's not 100% clear from the medical report that it was the actions of the police officer that caused him to pass.
Yeah, but it was very brutal. He didn't need to have his knee on his neck. He didn't need. I mean, he was a very. He wasn't a young, fit man. He was quite an overweight man.
Yeah.
They could have dealt with him. And it was brutal. It looked terrible on the video.
Yeah.
And no one can defend that man.
Fair play.
But what I'm saying is, why should our politicians make this into a big crusade? And first of all, you know, the trouble with Black Lives Matter is this. African-American and African Caribbean men have been stabbing and shooting each other for years and years and years. And no one ever mentioned about Black Lives Matter, but suddenly an African-American guy dies tragically, and suddenly the whole thing explodes.
And then, of course, when a white Ukrainian woman is murdered on a New York subway by a man of colour, again, not a squeak from the progressive left.
Oh, yes, well, that always happens.
And Andre, before I let you go, why is it a problem, the taking the knee, Angela Rayner, that image, why does that make her unfit to be Prime Minister, do you think? Or why is that a red flag for you?
Well, a picture is stronger than the words. I mean, it tells you everything about her mentality, doesn't it? You know, why should she, a working class woman from Britain, she doesn't care about the working class people of Britain, because if she did, she'd speak out about grooming gangs, about illegal immigrants, stabbing and raping people. It's the most vulnerable people who suffer. You know, the wealthy people who live in their nice leafy suburbs, they don't suffer. And yet she doesn't care about them. She cares more about some African-American man, because it became a big cause. It became everyone. It's just like an addiction. It's like transgender ideology. These left-wing lunatics, they always jump on what's fashionable.
And Andre, she wants to reverse Shabana Mahmood's stricter immigration policies.
Well, obviously she does, yeah. The whole Labour Party wants to.
That's bad news for working-class British people.
Well, the whole Labour Party is bad news, because they are not the Labour Party. They should be honest and just call themselves the Islamic Labour Party.
Wow, damning words. Andre, call me again soon. What a brilliant call. David is in Essex, which is the jewel in the crown of England. Good evening, David.
Hello, Mark. Good evening.
Well, I'm delighted that you've called. Do you think that public Muslim prayer is an assault on British culture and identity?
I do, but it was done for a reason. The prayers in Trafalgar Square was only carried out to reassert Sadiq Khan's authority in London, which he lost the day, 3 or 4 weeks ago now, when a WPC gave a telling off to young Muslims and read out the rule book to them. Now, for a woman to talk to a Muslim like that, you know, women can't talk to men, are not allowed to talk to Muslim men, let alone take prayers with them. Now, he lost a lot of authority over that, I believe, because they wanted to say that Whitechapel was a Muslim area.
Yeah.
And she proved that it wasn't. And with that, he had to reassert his authority over the Muslim people, his followers. Oh, I'll go one better. I will show them who's boss. And he had the prayers in Trafalgar Square because she, that WPC, and I love her, is now living in his head.
Oh, isn't that right? Stay with me because I'm getting a lot of messages about this, Dave. Where is the Church of England? They should be vocal on this. We're a Christian country. Robin in Suffolk, the Muslim prayer in Trafalgar Square is probably because they've learnt that they can protest if they are static. And you can't get more static than that. And Nigel says, good evening, Mark. I'm actually really pleased with the Trafalgar Square prayers yesterday. Showing this aspect of Britain is crucial for a complete understanding of the reality of today. It also puts the emphasis on the people who have a vote to actually vote. We've almost lost it, something that was once revered across the world. Dave, I don't know what age you are, but what do you make of how the country's changed in your lifetime?
I'm 77. I'm 78 next month, hopefully.
Oh, indeed. Please, God. Every day is a gift, isn't it?
Well, the changes I've seen, when my father brought me up, my mother and father, we had rules in our house, and they were not very strict, but we lived by rules. Today, there are no rules. I'm sorry, but you've got single parents. So it's unfortunate sometimes that they're single parents. You need a two-parent family. I'm sorry, it's the way I've been brought up, and, you know, I believe your children and the future generations are better for that, having rules. There are no rules. If you don't have rules, you know, where are we going? And as for our armed forces, what we've just witnessed with the Dragon, well, I really, it beggars belief.
Well, I know. It's just a national embarrassment, really, isn't it, David?
I'm embarrassed, put it this way, and I'm one of the old school. I see the old soldiers coming home from the last war.
Yeah.
You know, and they were proud men wearing their uniforms. You don't see a soldier on the street now wearing his uniform. It's not allowed.
Well, I mean, we've certainly in the past had soldiers told not to wear their uniform on public transport for their own safety, particularly when there are so-called pro-Palestine peace marches going on.
Yeah. Well, if they love Palestine so much, go there. Years ago, I had someone preach to me about communism and Russia. I said, go there. Why don't you go there and get in the bread queue for a mile long?
Dave, you've got common sense, which is uncommon these days. Please call me again soon. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday night, Dave in Essex. Thank you for all your calls and texts. The absolute legend that is Petri Hoskin is next. Hello, legend.
Hello, darling. How are you?
I'm very, very well indeed. And my God, so much to go at tonight.
Oh, I tell you, honestly, it's never ending at the moment, isn't it? So I'm going to be kicking off with, everyone keeps talking about the regime in Iran. So I want to get underneath that and see what really we're dealing with. What is actually going on? Can America kill their way out of an ideology, which is what they seem to think that they can do? So I'm going to be looking at that first of all. Then they've got a great story, a bit of light relief after talking about some British politics. We're going to be talking about this pyramid that's been discovered on Mars.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. Have you seen this?
Another wonder of the world.
It's an actual pyramid, and people are saying that it must have been. It is not a natural formation, and therefore, and I've got the filmmaker. I'm going to be talking to him.
Fascinating.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
So that could suggest life on Mars.
There was a civilization there before building pyramids.
Is there any scope for us to live there now? Because
I'd like to go there if
inflation's
we could.
lower there, isn't it?
Yeah,
There's less